Our story begins with a boy who was once a 35-year-old salaryman with no girlfriend. It has been 5 years since he was reincarnated into this world, and his old life is now a distant memory. Here, he is only a farmhand, and their work is restricted to the forest. Despite the humble life, he is happy. He offers to help his mother, who praises him as a gentle boy. He has gotten used to being a child now. His little brother also calls out to him. He keeps his reincarnation a secret to not cause his family distress. He then thinks about the grimoire, a book that holds his power. He is a summoner, a class that uses magic to create cards and summon monsters from them. He summons an H-ranked insect named Denka. However, he still hasn't reached the required level to fight demons, and the divine protection of summoned beasts is the most important thing to him. In his card holder, he has 20 cards. The divine protections from his summoned beasts increase his personal stats, making his strength equal to an adult's. He knows that an early increase in stats means control over the game, and he's good at grinding. Suddenly, a girl steps on his summoned insect, killing it instantly. She cheerfully asks Alan to spar with her. The girl, Karina, is his beast-hunting training partner. She's excited to play, and they prepare to spar with wooden swords. They playfully declare themselves as Knight Alan and Knight Karina, ready to begin their duel. Despite his mind of a 35-year-old, Alan finds the fight embarrassing. Karina is incredibly strong and fast, and he can't lower his guard. Karina relentlessly attacks, her speed and power overwhelming Alan as they exchange blows with their wooden swords. Alan struggles to keep up. Although his strength and speed were enhanced by his summons, his body isn't used to it yet. Karina, on the other hand, is enjoying the fight immensely. Karina happily exclaims that playing with Alan is more fun than playing with her own father. Alan, however, is frustrated that even after 5 years of training, he still can't win against her. Alan's dad comforts him, explaining that Karina is a sword master, a talent discovered during the judgment ceremony. He thought it was strange she was going to serve nobles one day, but Karina tells him to stop looking at her like that, claiming she's just a normal swordsman. His family discusses talents. His mother asks if Alan has one too, and Karina says it's pretty cool. But his father says that farmers can't read, and the priest had told them he didn't have any talent. Alan thinks to himself that it wouldn't make a difference even if they could read. He remembers the ceremony where all his stats were ranked and his talent was revealed to be crawling. Feeling dejected, Alan curses the gods of this world. His family, however, comforts him, saying they will raise him well, talent or not. He reflects that even though they aren't rich and his parents are younger than him, he's happy to be in this family. Sometime later, Karina's father, whom Alan calls Uncle Gorilla, is proud that she wants to be a knight. Today, the knights are coming to their village to test her ability. As they walk through the town, Alan notices the commoners looking down on them as farmhands, questioning if a farmhand's kid could truly be a sword master. A boy with the talent of axe wielder taunts Alan, calling him a talentless brat. Karina quickly defends him, but Alan tells her to ignore them. His father asks if he's all right. Just then, the knights arrive. A troop of knights on horseback makes their grand entrance into the village, their presence commanding attention. The villagers are in awe, especially of the chief. Karina, unintimidated, steps forward and introduces herself to the stern-looking knight leader. The chief announces that they will spar to test if she truly has the talent of a sword master. He warns that if she lied, she will be executed, shocking her father and Alan. Karina's father protests, but the knight insists that disobedience will result in death. Karina, however, confidently accepts the challenge, eager to fight. A knight named Raybrand, a spear master, steps up to face her. The two talented warriors prepare to duel, spear master versus sword master. Karina's father watches with a worried expression as she charges fearlessly towards the seasoned knight, beginning their intense battle. To the crowd's amazement, Karina is getting the upper hand against the knight. Alan muses that since she's been practicing since she was 3, Her sword skill might be better than his even if he hadn't chosen Hell mode. The knight cries out as he is pushed back, but the knight retaliates, sending Karina flying into a wall, which shatters on impact. Her father and Alan cry out her name in terror. The guards restrain Karina's furious father. Alan feels a surge of helplessness, realizing he's not strong enough to fight soldiers and worries about what will happen to Karina's family. The knight notes that Karina used an extra skill. From the rubble, she launches a powerful spinning attack that sends the knight's weapon flying. The knight declares the fight is over, but Karina is ecstatic. She exclaims how fun the fight was and thanks him, genuinely impressed by his strength. The knight, Ray, admits his defeat. The crowd erupts in cheers, proclaiming that the village has given birth to a true swordmaster. Alan admits he's even jealous. Karina's father rushes to her side, checking for injuries. The knight chief confirms there is no doubt about her talent. He tells Karina that when she turns 12, she will go to a school for the gifted. Until then, he will send a teacher for her. Alan wonders if he can study too. Alan analyzes the talents of those around him, noticing the star ratings. Karina is a 3-star swordmaster, while the others are only 1 star. He realizes that at 3 stars, she is higher level than anyone else here and that the number of stars is related to their stats. He reflects on his own progress. He is still at level 1 after 5 years. He understands that in Hell mode, his stats need to be 100 times higher than in normal mode. Seeing how strong a 3-star is, he wonders how far he is from his goal. Time passes and fall has come. Alan is now 6 years old, yet still at level 1. After the discovery of the Swordmaster, his nameless village was renamed Karina Village. He continues to practice, honing his throwing skill after 200,000 throws, but he knows he needs another 5 years to reach Hell mode. While eating, his mother notes that his dad is late. Alan explains that since farmers aren't allowed to do business, his dad leads a beast hunter team in the fall and winter to earn extra income. Just then, his mother calls out as a group of men arrives. His father, Rodden, has been brought back gravely injured and covered in blood. His mother, Teresia, screams in horror while Alan calls out to his dad. At his father's bedside, a fellow villager explains they were lucky to find a rare Muray's flower in the woods and that the knights had given the money to buy the expensive medicine. Karina's father explains what happened. Rodden usually fights and defeats giant boars, but this year, a directive allowed commoners to participate. They thought it was easy money, but they panicked, broke formation, and Rodden was injured protecting them. After some time, Rodden recovers. He wakes up and is tearfully reunited with his relieved family. Despite the happy reunion, Alan feels a strange sense of detachment. He feels an invisible wall between him and his family, recognizing that with his memories of a past life, he is technically the oldest one here. Alan steps forward and tells Karina's father, Gelda, to let his own dad rest. He declares that he will take over his dad's business and take care of him, his pregnant mother, and the unborn child until he is completely healed. His parents are stunned by his sudden maturity. With a look of pure determination, Alan declares that he will not allow anyone to harm his family. It's time to quit pretending to be a kid. The next morning, Alan proves he was serious. Gelda is shocked to see the young boy effortlessly carrying 2 large buckets of water, starting his work early. He diligently works the fields, harvesting potatoes. He knows that farmers have to give 60% of their harvested crops to the landlords, so he is determined to store up enough food to ensure his family gets through the winter. 2 days later, he has harvested an enormous amount of food. Gelda is amazed at how quick he was. With that done, Alan decides the next thing to get is meat and clears a patch of tall grass. It has been a fruitful day. The experience he has accumulated is finally enough to open a new skill, Card Enhancement, which allows him to increase his summon stats. He has also acquired several new summon cards. Using his grimoire, Alan summons a new creature, a G-rank insect named Bionta, which has the skill Provoke. Alan commands his new summon, Bionta, to use its Provoke skill. He hopes to attract about 50 birds to hunt for the winter. He waits, but at first, nothing happens, and he wonders if the skill failed or if the sound was too low. His question is answered when a giant, terrifying bird-like monster descends from the sky with a screech. Alan instantly recognizes it as an alba heron, the very monster his dad named him after, a name that means to fly freely in the sky. The alba heron is huge, at least 2 meters tall, and this is Alan's first time hunting a demon beast. He didn't expect this, but he recognizes it as a once-in-a-lifetime chance. He puts his highly practiced throwing skill to the test, successfully landing a stone against the monster's head. Realizing one hit won't be enough, he opens his grimoire and summons a pack of his animal-type summons, a group of dog-like creatures. He commands his dogs, Pochi, to attack. They swarm the deer-rank beast, but even with 15 of them, they are not strong enough and are violently thrown back. The albaheron's massive claw descends upon him. Believing he's about to die, Alan desperately tries to think of another way to survive. He quickly summons a new creature, an F-rank insect named Chew, which has the skill Suck. He commands it to suck the monster's blood, a strategy he calls Energy Drain. His plan works. With the albaheron weakened, the pressure lessens. He has tired out his opponent and now has a chance to win. He seizes the opportunity and charges forward. A notification declares the albaheron is defeated and that he has received 100 experience points. Surrounded by his summons, Alan raises his sword in triumph, screaming that he really won. Exhausted but victorious, he hugs one of his dog summons, admitting to himself that the feeling of winning is even more awesome than he had imagined. He brings the colossal beast back to the village. His family is stunned, and Karina calls him cool, though she is also frightened. Gelda informs him that the village chief will let him have the rest of the monster after refining the wings and magic stones. Alan gives a sinister smile and thanks him. As he recovers, Alan realizes that his summons provoke skill works on demon beasts. He grimly decides to hunt an albaheron every 3 days, knowing he would have died if a second one had appeared during his last fight. Suddenly, a notification appears. His experience points have reached the threshold, and he has leveled up to level 2, receiving a massive boost to all his stats. Alan is ecstatic. After 6 long years in this world, he has finally leveled up. He examines his new stats, noting the significant increase in strength and magic. With his dad's injuries likely healed by now, he decides it's time to talk with his parents. He finds his parents at home and tells them that he needs to talk with them about something important. He begins to reveal his secret, explaining that when he was 1 year old, someone named Alina told him he would need to overcome many challenges and that he was given special knowledge to do so. He wonders if they're going to panic. To his utter shock, his father isn't surprised. He says he believes everything Alan is saying, explaining that Alan was always an incredible child with a different hair color, which is why he never believed the results of the talent ceremony. He then asks if Alan has just gone through his first challenge. Alan asks how he knew. His father points to a small scar on his body that has now disappeared, revealing he understands the concept of leveling up and healing. He reminds Alan that his family is always with him. When Alan asks if Gelda knows, his father laughs, saying this is payback for Gelda always being so proud of his own daughter. In December, Alan begins the final step to ensure his family's survival through the winter. He asks Gelda for a secret favor, to exchange the meat he has gathered for firewood and salt, but not to tell his parents. Alan then asks Gelda a critical question. How can a farmer become a commoner? Gelda explains that you need 10 coins, and the landlord will grant the promotion. Alan calculates that with the unborn baby, his family has 5 members, meaning he will need 50 coins. He makes a solemn vow. Before he leaves Karina village, he will help his family become commoners. While on his way, he runs into the leader of the brats who bullied him before, recognizing him as the son of the weapon shop owner. The bully, Dagora, tries to pick a fight, but Alan is merely annoyed, seeing it as a useless battle that gives no experience points, just like in a game. Fed up, Alan draws his sword and challenges the axe user, Dagora, directly, declaring he will knock down anyone who stands in his way. Dagora charges forward, swinging his weapon, but Alan effortlessly parries the attack. He notes to himself that compared to the 3-star talent Karina, this bully is no threat at all. Holding his sword to the terrified bully, Alan coldly asks if he wants to go again. Dogora can only stammer that he'll win next time. Alan walks away, leaving him trembling. As he walks off, Alan tells the still trembling Dogora that he'll buy something from his shop next time. 9 months later, a new member has joined the family. Karina is overjoyed to have a little sister, fawning over the cute baby Mayura-chan. Alan now finds himself playing knights with his former bully, Dogora. As they spar, Alan easily critiques Dagora's technique, telling him his movements are too obvious. He now regularly practices with his little brother Mashu, who is 3, and Dogora. Dogora is fired up, looking forward to the talent assessment in 2 years, hoping to prove himself. One night, Alan returns home to find Gelda there with his father. They bear bad news. The village chief summoned them because the Lord has increased the boar hunting target by 5, requiring them to kill 15 boars in total this year. This means more civilians will have to participate in the dangerous hunt, just like last year. Rodden explains he tried to object, but it's an order directly from the Lord. Teresia is distraught at the news. The situation is grim. They cannot defy a direct order, and there's a possibility the quota will increase to 20 next year. Alan realizes that for some reason, the Lord is actively promoting monster hunting. Seeing his family's despair, Alan steps forward. He confidently tells them to leave it to him, explaining that the Creator has given him wisdom and that he will figure something out. In October, the hunting party gathers at the village gate. The men are glad to see Rodden has fully recovered and is ready to lead them again. Alan joins his father, who seems to have made a full recovery. Rodden tells Alan to stay back, watch, and learn, but not to get close to the actual fight. 2 new civilians join the hunt this year. One of them is worried, but his friend tells him to stay focused. Rodden addresses the group, confirming their increased target number means 20 people will be hunting this time. Alan realizes his job is to assist these 2 new guys. This marks the first time in his 7 years as a farmhand that Alan has left the village. He's filled with excitement as he walks down the same road the knights once took. The Great Boar hunting group makes its way towards Hakuryu Mountain. Alan learns that, as the name indicates, a white dragon lives on its peak, and the great boars leave the mountains in autumn. He quietly vows that one day, that dragon will become his quarry. A lookout screams that a beast is coming. A massive, terrifying great boar with a single large horn charges out from the foliage. The newcomers are frozen in fear at the sight of the terrifyingly powerful beast. The veteran hunters, however, stand their ground, ready to intercept its charge. With a mighty roar, Rodden and his men brace their spears, successfully stopping the great boar's furious charge. The hunters hold the beast at bay, and Rodden commands the others to charge forward. Alan analyzes the tactic. Lure the prey, hold it down, then attack its key points. A strategy his dad and the others have used for 10 years without fail. Alan recalls last year's disaster. The civilians were ordered to hold the boars down, a task that seemed simple, but they weren't strong enough, which led to his father's injuries. He turns to the 2 new recruits and tells them it's their turn. He knows it was a mistake to let the newcomers charge ahead from the start. Instead, he tells them to hide and wait for the right opportunity to strike. From his hiding spot, Alan secretly opens his grimoire and summons Denka, the insect, commanding it to spit a substance at the boar's face, blinding it. With the great boar blinded and disoriented, Rodden and another hunter successfully land a powerful strike. Alan watches in awe, thinking how cool his dad is. The newcomer is shocked to feel his power increasing, exclaiming that this must be God's trial. Alan smirks, his plan working perfectly. By letting the civilians gain real combat experience, their experience points have greatly increased. Now they should be able to kill all 15 boars quickly. A notification appears for Alan as well. For defeating one great boar, he gained 400 experience points, allowing him to reach level 3. His stats increase once again, and he celebrates leveling up. filled with new resolve. Alan knows his life will change once his level is high enough. He decides he will hunt more boars and albaherons to gain experience until he finally earns the 50 coins his family needs. 5 months of relentless hunting and training pass. Finally, in June, after a year and 10 months of dedication, a notification appears. His enhancing and summoning skills have both reached level 4, unlocking grade 3 skills in his grimoire and granting him a brand new ability, the storage skill. He eagerly pulls up his status screen to see the full extent of his growth. He's now level 6 at age 7. More importantly, he can now summon E-rank animals, a significant step up. As he takes in all the changes, his mind immediately begins to strategize, focusing on the new possibilities this will open up. He notes 2 major changes from his level up. He has gained the storage skill, which creates a black hole in his grimoire that can store infinite tools. He also realizes that to create or enhance E-rank animals, he needs E-rank magic stones. He recalls hunting a horned rabbit before, but can't remember finding a stone, as they're the lowest rank and have no tax. He quickly learns that E-rank stones are considered worthless and can be found plentifully throughout the forest. The task of gathering enough stones seems tiring, but he is thankful for his new storage skill, which will make it much easier. 3 months later, he can summon E-rank animals. As he looks at his grimoire, surrounded by his summons, he has an epiphany. He finally understands the intention of the game maker, the creator of this world. After wondering how a summoner is supposed to fight, he now sees his path clearly. A strategic combination of attack, defense, and healing summons is the key to mastering his role. Baron Granbeal arrives in the village with his entourage, not just to watch the boar hunt, but to enforce a quota. The village chief apologizes, explaining it's a difficult task, but the Baron states it's a direct order from His Majesty, the King. Hearing this, a young boy named Alan realizes the situation is becoming far more serious than he anticipated. The Baron notices Alan and asks whose son he is. The village chief introduces him as the child of Rodden the Hunter and their deputy guide for the hunt. The Baron's daughter, Cecil, scoffs at the idea of a serf's child leading them, but her father quickly reprimands her, stating that the serfs are still his people. Cecil apologizes to her father, but not before shooting a glare at Alan. Alan, however, remains composed, thinking to himself that her anger won't change a thing. Having settled the matter, Baron Granbeal turns his attention back to the mission. He formally commands Alan, as Rodden's child, to lead his strongest knights to fulfill the royal order. Alan recalls what his father said. If the villagers work together, they can reach the quota of 20 boars. As he contemplates this, a lookout suddenly announces the return of the boar hunting group. Baron Granbeal looks on, intrigued by this unexpected development. A massive haul of boars is brought forth, carried by a group of determined hunters. The sheer size and number of the catch are impressive. The Baron and his advisor are stunned. They can't believe the villagers killed 3 boars in a single trip. Alan explains that they also recruited 20 more hunters and are equipped with armor made from the boar skins the Baron had given them the previous year. The Baron, trying to calculate their progress, figures they have 17 boars left. Alan corrects him, stating it's only 10 left to meet the quota. The Baron is astonished at how well the hunt is going, especially since they only started half a month ago. With newfound confidence, Alan stands before the Baron and the villagers, declaring that with their increased numbers and equipment, they can handle this year's quota all by themselves. The Baron looks visibly relieved. A hint of a smile appears on his face as he realizes he doesn't need to worry about the quota being met anymore. Alan, speaking on his father's behalf, requests permission to keep the boar skins for future hunts. The Baron's advisor is skeptical, suggesting they shouldn't take a child's word for it. However, the Baron overrules him, stating that a serf's child has no reason to lie and that having an understanding lord is a good thing. Later, inside the village chief's house, Alan and 2 other hunters kneel before the Baron. The Baron praises Karina Village's success, noting that the Territory Reclamation Order has been active for 15 years, and their village's contribution is wonderful. The Baron specifically addresses the two men kneeling with Alan. He calls them out by name, boar hunter Rodden and Gelda. He acknowledges their hard work, noting he heard they have been leading the hunts for the past 10 years to contribute to the village's development. He declares that they deserve to be rewarded for their bravery. As their reward, the Baron declares that both Rodden, Gelda, and their families are now promoted to the status of commoners. The two men are left in stunned silence by this life-changing news. Alan, however, can't contain his joy. He exclaims in delight, realizing that as a commoner, he's now free to leave the village and go hunting whenever he wants. This has been his dream since he first heard of this reward. The Baron adds that all other serfs who have hunted for over 10 years will also be rewarded. He then asks a curious question. Why did they decide to start hunting the dangerous C-rank great boars? Rodden seems hesitant to answer, and Alan looks to his father, who never mentioned this part of the story. Rodden begins his tale. 13 years ago, they started exploring the land with other serfs out of desperation for food. But that fall, great boars attacked, stealing their winter supplies. It was then that a younger Rodden declared they would hunt the boars. They succeeded in killing one, but tragically lost a friend in the fight. Gelda tells Rodden to stop blaming himself for what happened. The Baron, having listened intently, trusts the story. He decides that as the Lord, it's his duty to reward his people's hard work and bravery, even from the past, and offers Rodden another reward. When asked what he desires, Rodden makes a surprising request. He asks the Baron to please allow his son, Alan, to work at his house. Rodden proclaims that his son is much smarter than him and will surely be of great use. Alan is completely shocked by his father's words. Alan tries to object, but his father insists, even suggesting Alan can be used as an errand boy. The Baron's advisors agree that there's no doubt Alan is a smart child, and the Baron himself voices no objection to the proposal. Alan's mind races in panic. His dream of monster hunting feels like it's slipping away. If he works at the Baron's house, it will be even more inconvenient than before. He desperately searches for a breakthrough, a way out of this situation. But the Baron's next words change everything. He announces that he will make Alan an official servant of the Granville house. Alan is stunned, realizing the vast difference between a simple errand boy and a formal servant. He needs a reason to refuse, but his father calls his name, stopping him. Rodden, overwhelmed with tears of joy, pats his stunned son on the head. He sees this not as servitude, but as a priceless opportunity for Alan's future, a step up in the world he could only dream of providing. Understanding the weight of his father's actions, Alan's resistance fades. Alongside his father and Gelda, he bows deeply before Baron Granville and formally accepts the position, stating, "I am in your care." His life in the village is now over, and a new chapter as a servant in a noble house is about to begin. Alan feels the weight of his father's decision. It's an opportunity he can't possibly refuse. He later explains to his sister, Karina, that he'll be leaving the village in a few days to become a servant at the Baron's house. To say goodbye, Alan asks Karina to play knights one last time. She happily agrees. The villagers, including their parents, watch fondly, remarking on their goodbye knight play. They square off for their mock battle. Karina introduces herself as Knight Karina, a holy sword user. Alan declares himself Baron Granville's servant, Alan, a summoner, and challenges her to come at him. With a determined look, Karina shouts that she's coming, and the two children charge at each other, their wooden swords clashing in a flurry of strikes. The onlookers are stunned by their speed. Alan is actually pushing Karina, who is known for her talent, back. A look at Alan's stats shows he has reached level 7. Fueled by determination, he thinks to himself that he will win today. The duel ends. Alan calls it a draw, but Karina, exhausted and out of breath, feels that she has lost. Alan extends a hand to Karina, telling her their match isn't settled yet and they should fight again. Karina takes his hand, smiling, and promises she'll be even stronger the next time they meet. Alan knows that Karina will soon be going to the academy to serve the royal family, so their chances of meeting again are slim. He's just glad he got to see her smile one last time. even though he knows she held back her best move. As he prepares to leave, Alan struggles to hold back his tears. He hugs his little brother Mashu, telling him to be strong and protect their baby sister, Miura. His friend, Dagora, gives him a dagger from his family shop as a parting gift. They exchange a simple bye as Alan prepares to leave his friend behind. Finally, the day of his departure arrives. As Alan stands before the carriage, his father, Rodin, kneels down and tells him that his life won't end as a servant forever, urging him to make the most of this opportunity. Alan waves goodbye to his family and his entire village. Inside the carriage, seated across from Cecil, Alan takes one last look at his village disappearing in the distance. He quietly promises to do his best. And so, upon arriving at the Baron's house, Alan became the personal servant of Cecil, just as she requested. The new role is clearly a struggle for him. His new life is demanding. Cecil, unhappy with the taste of a fruit, orders Alan to go to the market and buy her a pawpaw. Day by day, Alan finds himself constantly ordered around by another 8-year-old, with no chance to go monster hunting. While on an errand, Alan is amazed to see an airship, thinking it's a flying city. Cecil calls him a dummy, explaining it's a magic ship. She mentions her brother will be returning from the academy in the spring and tells Alan to hurry up. After a long day of servitude, Alan has found his own sanctuary. He returns to a small, dusty loft located behind the main mansion. In his loft, Alan tends to a special plant whose aroma helps restore his magical energy. He thinks about how this small, private space is perfect for practicing his skills: create, combine, and enhance. The next morning, in the servants' hall, Alan carries a tray as another servant, Riskel, cheerfully greets him. Riskel asks if he's doing all right as Miss Cecil's personal servant, a hint of pity in his voice. Alan learns that in the vast Granville house, there are a total of 30 servants, not including those who only work for a short time. Alan's life settles into a routine. He has two main duties in the house: taking care of the sleepy, yawning Cecil in the morning, and serving meals to the entire Granville family. During a meal, Lady Granville observes that Alan seems to have gotten used to working there. She also notices that the family's meals are quite simple, much like the servants, and wonders if the Baron is trying to be frugal. Lady Granville compliments Alan, saying she can't even tell he was a serf. The Baron casually mentions that Alan doesn't have any talent. Cecil overhears this, a knowing smile on her face, thinking it's understandable that Alan knows a lot about her talent now. Cecil proudly puffs out her chest and declares her talent. She is a sorcerer. She also boasts that her older brother, Mihai, is a swordsman. While the Baron immediately scolds Cecil for revealing her talents so carelessly, Alan is privately impressed, noting that sorcerer is a good 2-star talent. The Baron then shifts the focus, turning to his other son, Thomas, to ask about his. The atmosphere at the table grows heavy. With a somber expression, Thomas apologizes to his father, confessing that he doesn't have a talent and expressing his deep desire to study at the academy, just like his older brother and Cecil. Alan reflects on the scene, realizing that even nobles have their own worries. He finds it rare that 2 out of 3 children have talents, as talents are more likely to appear among commoners and serfs. Meanwhile, Lady Granville comforts her son, telling Thomas he doesn't need to apologize. Lady Granville continues to console Thomas, reminding him that he's been accepted into the House of Lords, where he'll meet many other great people without talents. She fondly recalls meeting the Baron at a ball there. This news excites the other young lady at the table, though Cecil looks less than pleased. Alan processes this information. Cecil will start at the academy when she turns 12, the same as his sister Karina and his friend Dagora. He smirks to himself, thinking that with Cecil's personality, she probably won't get along with them. On his first day off, Alan heads into the city to gather information. As a servant, he has no curfew, so he just needs to return by the next morning. He walks 2 hours to the market at the North Gate, a much shorter trip than from the south. There, he spots his destination, the Adventurers Guild. He stands before the impressive building. This is the Adventurers Guild, an organization of monster hunters, just as his fellow servant Riskel had told him. This is exactly what he's been looking for, a way to earn both experience points and money. He eagerly approaches the counter, but his hopes are quickly dashed. The receptionist informs him that he's only 8, and adventurers must be at least 12 years old to sign up. He's frustrated to learn that he's underage. Though he plans to work as a servant for a few more years to make his father proud, he is determined not to give up on monster hunting. Alan notices a bulletin board for mission requests. Using his gamer-like interface, he takes note of the available quests. He sees missions for various monsters, but notices a crucial piece of information is missing: their habitats. Spotting a tough-looking adventurer, Alan decides to ask for information directly. The adventurer, annoyed at being bothered by a child in what he considers not a playground, asks why he should tell him anything. The adventurer, Levin, surprisingly begins to share information. He explains that high-level monsters appear closer to the White Dragon Mountain, a place that takes 7 days to reach. It's where the great boars come from. He then slyly asks if a kid like Alan is familiar with the roads. Alan notices a rank B quest for a beast called a Muttergalsch in the Ramba Forest. He has a sudden realization. His father named his younger brother, Mashu, after these very monsters. Levin dismisses it as a job for knights, not adventurers like him. Levin then points out the rank A quest for the White Dragon, a monster shrouded in mystery on the White Dragon Mountain, a place no one can currently exploit. Alan is amazed that even for a reward of 1,000 copper pieces, no one dares to fight the White Dragon. Just then, Levin's party members, Marushi and a hooded woman, call him over to celebrate. Having gotten the information he needed, Alan thanks Levin and decides his next steps. It is now mid-November, and the air is cold enough for snow. Alan makes his way to Granbeel's North Gate. A guard stops him, asking for a pass. Alan presents the Baron's crest, which the guard immediately recognizes. The guard apologizes and lets him pass. Alan realizes the crest is more useful than he thought. He's been preparing for this day, his summons at the ready. Finally, he steps outside the towering city walls, a smile spreading across his face as he takes in the open road and the freedom it represents. He has a whole day off. Now that his family are commoners, they can move freely. With a shout of excitement, he declares, "Let's go hunt." The gate guard can only watch as he sprints off, shouting a warning about the dangers of going alone. Alan consults his mental map of the area. He knows that getting too close to the White Dragon Mountain is dangerous due to the high-ranked monsters that reside there. After running about 10 kilometers into the forest, he decides to aim for D-rank monsters, confident that he can handle them. He prepares to summon his bird, Hook. Alan tests Hook's intelligence, which has improved after enhancement. It's the only summon that can understand all his orders. Pleased, he pets Hook and then sends his flock of birds into the sky, using their Hawkeye skill to scout for monsters. An hour passes with no sign of monsters, leading Alan to believe the random encounter rate is low. He takes a moment to check his inventory, which includes some coins, a few magic stones, and the dagger he got from Dagora. Suddenly, Hook flies down, chirping. It's found something. Realizing it's much faster to search from the sky, Alan thanks his summon and draws his sword, ready for whatever lies ahead. Hook leads him deeper into the woods. Alan proceeds with caution, unsure of what kind of monster awaits. The area seems quiet, and he wonders if this is really the right place. His question is answered abruptly as several beast-like figures emerge from the trees, brandishing crude weapons. He quickly finds himself surrounded by a small horde. He identifies them instantly. They're D-rank goblins, about 1.5 meters tall. Recognizing the threat, he prepares for the impending battle. As the 5 goblins charge, Alan calmly opens his grimoire and summons his own reinforcements. "Come, Thomas," he commands. 5 ferocious, cat-like creatures, his E-rank summons named Tama, appear around him, growling and ready to fight. Their stats show they are formidable fighters. The goblins hesitate, intimidated by the sudden appearance of the beasts. Alan smirks, confident in the power of his E-rank summons. It's an even match, 5 of his Tamas against the 5 goblins. The beasts let out a collective growl, eager for battle. Knowing he can summon his animals within a 50-meter radius, Alan strategically surrounds the goblins, cutting off their escape. With a grin, he declares, "Now, let the hunt start." The Tamas leap into action, tearing into the goblins with their claws and fangs in a chaotic frenzy of battle. One of his Tamas successfully defeats a goblin, earning Alan 200 experience points. He's pleased his summons can handle the fight. However, the victory is short-lived as another Tama is struck down. Seeing one of his summons get defeated in a single hit, Alan realizes this won't be an easy victory. He quickly changes tactics and summons his E-rank insect, a Jiha. A large, beautiful butterfly named a Jiha emerges. Its status screen appears, highlighting its high endurance and agility, as well as its special skill, Scales. A nearby goblin looks on in confusion. Alan knows he can use a Jiha's skill to put the enemies to sleep. As the goblins become drowsy from the butterfly's scales, he prepares to strike with a stone. He throws a stone, but, just as he expected, it has no effect on a D-rank monster. Frustrated, he commands his remaining Tama to attack the sleeping goblin. In less than 2 hours, the battle is over. Alan has defeated 5 goblins and gained 1,000 experience points. He grins, realizing this hunt is far more efficient than he could have ever expected. Alan gets to the grim task of harvesting the magic stones from the defeated goblins. He dislikes doing it, but for a summoner, magic stones are a lifeline that he must collect. Looking up at the sky, he sees his bird summon, Hook, has already located another group of 5 goblins within 3 kilometers. It seems goblins are a plentiful resource. It turns out to be the best day off ever. In total, he defeated 80 goblins and 5 horned rabbits, earning over 16,000 experience points and leveling up from 7 to 9. He also learned more about his insect summon skill, Scales. It has a high success rate on goblins, but he notes that to use debuffs on opponents 2 or more ranks higher, he would need to use multiple insect-type summons at once. As evening approaches, he notices he lost a few Tamas during the fights. He'll need to collect more E-rank stones to create new ones. He calls to his birds, telling them it's time to go. He notices his birds are acting strange and asks what's wrong. To his dismay, he realizes that since they have normal bird eyes, they can't see well in the dark. His first hunt is cut short, and to make matters worse, he's lost. A month passes. Alan establishes a routine, going out to hunt every 6 days. He reaches level 15. The cycle of hunting monsters for experience, money, and better equipment feels easy, but he still hasn't saved enough to buy good gear. As Alan worries about his low servant salary of 50 silver coins a month, he is suddenly summoned by the head butler. Alan is brought before Baron Granbiel, who sits at his desk with the butler standing by. The Baron informs Alan that the butler's performance reports have been nothing but praise. The Baron's expression turns serious. He asks Alan what he has been doing on his days off, noting that he was seen trying to sneak out before sunrise again. Alan realizes they are suspicious and knows he must be careful with his lies. To the surprise of the Baron and the butler, Alan confesses the truth. He goes monster hunting outside the city. He explains that he is the son of the hunter Rodden and that hunting is simply his family's way of life. The butler looks shocked. The Baron's stern face softens into a smile. He remembers Rodden's bravery and calls Alan the child of a hero. Alan feels relieved that his story, which was mostly true, sounded natural and believable. Alan explains that he sells the meat to a butcher for pocket money. The butler advises against it, warning of rumors. Instead, the Baron offers to buy the meat himself, paying 1 silver coin for each monster part. Alan is overjoyed, realizing he can now hunt proudly without wasting time. 5 days later, on another day off, Alan is back in the snowy forest. He gives a kiss to his butterfly summon, a Jiha, for good luck before setting his goal for the day: kill 100 goblins and 5 horned rabbits. While he's taking a break to eat a Mortimo fruit, his bird summon, Hook, suddenly lands and starts chirping frantically. Alan asks what's wrong. Hook takes off abruptly, flying far beyond the 3-kilometer search radius Alan had instructed it to stay within. Puzzled and a bit annoyed, Alan follows. He's led to the scene of a battle. He sees a group of adventurers being overwhelmed by goblins. One of the adventurers desperately yells for his companion, Marushi, to run. Alan immediately recognizes the group from the Adventurers Guild, Levin, Marushi, and their hooded companion. They are surrounded, and Marushi stands her ground, determined not to let the goblins pass. Deciding to intervene, Alan reaches into his inventory. He pulls out 3 custom-made iron balls he had acquired from a weapon shop. He hurls the first iron ball with surprising force, striking a goblin square in the head and sending it flying. Marushi is stunned by the unexpected and powerful intervention. Appearing seemingly out of nowhere, Alan grabs a stunned Marushi and declares that he's here to help. He quickly dispatches his other 2 iron balls, taking out 2 more goblins with precise and deadly aim. The remaining goblins, enraged by the sudden loss of their comrades, turn their attention towards the new threat. Alan realizes his iron balls aren't enough to kill them. Not wanting to reveal his summoning abilities, he decides to fight them directly. He tells a hesitant Marushi that he'll take care of the goblins on the right. He had been avoiding direct combat to keep his borrowed servant clothes clean, but now he has no choice. He charges in, sword drawn, and swiftly cuts down a goblin, moving on to the next. One of the adventurers manages to kill a goblin, but the fight is taking its toll. The hooded woman is almost out of mana. Marushi cries out in despair, seeing that Levin is gravely injured and won't make it. The battle ends. Alan stands alone amidst the fallen goblins, having saved the adventurers from certain death. Marushi and her companion are amazed that Alan killed 3 goblins by himself. They tell him Levin's wound is too serious and they won't reach the city in time. Alan offers them some herbs he has. Alan pulls out a recovery herb he obtained from Summon. He's never used it before, but deducing its purpose from a name, he decides to use the injured Levin as a test subject. He applies the herb, and to everyone's astonishment, Levin's grievous wound begins to magically heal and close up before their eyes. Levin is saved. The party is overjoyed and amazed by the mysterious kid's abilities, with one even wondering if he passed the trial of a god. Alan is just glad the herb worked. Alan then tends to Marushi's injured arm, this time using an even more precious item, a manhwa's flower. The party is shocked that he possesses 2 different kinds of rare herbs. The healing is so fast that Alan recalls his own father didn't recover this quickly from a similar injury. Alan explains that a recovery herb only heals to some extent, while the manhwa's flower can restore one's maximum physical strength. Levin, now fully recovered, finally recognizes Alan from the guild and asks what his incredible talent is. Alan simply states that he was told he doesn't have one. The adventurers are in awe of Alan, calling him cool and insisting they must pay him back for saving all of them. Alan, however, just wants to get back to his hunt and asks them not to tell anyone about him. But Levin persists, asking if there's anything else they can do. Alan pauses, considering their offer. An idea strikes him. As repayment, he asks for all the magic stones from the goblins they defeated, as well as 100 of their own E-rank stones. He declares that this will be enough. After the grateful adventurers depart, Levin vowing not to lose to goblins again, Alan is finally alone. But before he can resume his hunt, there's something he needs to check. He summons his bird, Hook. Alan tries to process what happened. He always believed that summons were supposed to simply follow their master's orders, and that their stats and skills were tools for the summoner to command. Hook looks back at him, not understanding the problem. But Hook ignored his instructions and prioritized its own will, choosing to lead him to the adventurers in need. Kneeling in the snow, Alan has a profound realization about the nature of the summons created by the god of this world. He reaches out and gently pets his summon. He apologizes to Hook, reassuring it that he isn't blaming it. With a smile, he promises that next time, he will consider the possibility of Hook finding someone in need and says, "I'm counting on you." With this newfound understanding and strengthened bond, Alan and Hook are ready for whatever comes next. Hook lets out a mighty cry and spreads its wings, ready to continue their journey together with his summons. In late December, 2 months have passed since Alan started working at the Baron's mansion. The Knight Commander, who sometimes visits to trade information, notes that Alan is looking much better. The commander's job is to protect the Lord by catching criminals and subjugating monsters. During dinner, the family discusses how their country seems to be safe from war. Cecil, the Baron's daughter, excitedly points out that the meat they're eating is from the 5-horned rabbits Alan caught in a single day, much to the Knight Commander's surprise. The Knight Commander then mentions that Karina Village successfully defeated 20 great boars. The girls praise Alan's father for the achievement, and Alan proudly accepts the compliment, saying it was only natural. This makes Karina suspicious. She wonders why, if they caught so many boars back in October, they aren't getting to eat any of the meat now, recalling that they had boar meat last winter. Alan silently agrees that it is strange. The Baron scolds Karina for her selfish question, while Alan internally speculates that the meat was likely sent to the royal capital on the king's magic ship. Karina sadly whispers to Alan that the Baron's own children get less meat than the serfs in her village. Just then, their brother Thomas tries to order Alan to catch a white deer for the upcoming New Year's party. Karina looks worried, but Cecil quickly steps in, telling Thomas he has to go through her first. Thomas reluctantly backs down. The Baron and Lady Granville also tell Thomas to stop bothering Alan. However, Alan is unfazed and accepts the challenge. He thinks to himself that his father's team has hunted C-rank monsters like the Great Boar before, so now it's his turn to try. Alan heads out into the snowy wilderness. He summons his team of crowned frogs, who begin hopping around, ready for the hunt. Suddenly, their target appears from the trees. It's a C-rank white deer, an aggressive-looking beast with massive, intimidating antlers. As the white deer charges, Alan stands his ground. With his grimoire open, he resolved that he can't call himself a summoner if he can't properly utilize his summons abilities. With a shout, Alan commands his summons. The frogs unleash their power, creating a massive wall of ice that instantly freezes and traps the charging deer. The hunt is a success, granting Alan 2,500 experience points. He notes that hunting goblins is far more efficient for leveling up, but figures that this impressive catch will earn him praise as he drags the deer's body through the snow. Back at the mansion, panic erupts as a monster is spotted outside. Baron Granville yells for everyone to grab their weapons and hold out until the knights arrive. The guards ready their spears, only for the monster to be revealed as Alan, dragging the massive deer. He announces that he has captured a white deer as per Master Thomas's order, leaving everyone speechless. The tension breaks as Karina happily tells her mother that with this deer, they no longer need to worry about the New Year's party. Lady Granville agrees, looking relieved. As the family thanks Alan, the Knight Commander questions if this is truly a talentless kid. In disbelief that an 8-year-old could single-handedly kill a C-rank monster, he quietly orders one of his men to recheck Alan's background. Thanks to Alan's achievement, he is now entrusted with a weekly hunting day to provide meat for the family. His salary is also doubled to 100 silver coins, though he notes it's a fixed rate, suspecting the Baron is having financial difficulties. Even so, Alan is ecstatic that he now gets to go hunting twice a week, even though he secretly wishes it could be more. Time passes, and it is now March. A carriage arrives, and Lady Cecil wakes Alan, telling him they are going to meet her older brother. Today, they are to pick up the Baron's eldest son from his school dormitory in the city. At the landing point, Alan and Cecil are in awe as they look upon a massive airship docked at the port. Cecil is amazed to see the airship up close. Alan, already aware that it's fueled by magic stones, is more interested in the principles behind its operation. He observes other magic tools, noting the world's advanced technology. Cecil runs to greet her brother, Mihai, as he disembarks. After they exchange greetings, Alan introduces himself. Mihai is surprised to see such a young new servant. Cecil proudly tells her brother that her servant is a hunter, which Mihai finds excellent. Alan thinks to himself that Mihai is much calmer than his sister and that their father certainly spoils her. Mihai gives Cecil a gift from the capital, a beautiful butterfly accessory, which she loves. As Alan watches the two siblings' close bond, his thoughts drift to his own friends back home, Mashu and Miura, wondering how they are doing. Sometime later, during Mihai's spring break, it's the first hunting day since his return. Fulfilling an order from Cecil to hunt a lot, Alan returns to the manor with a massive haul of monsters, prompting a guard to wonder if they're preparing for a feast. Upon returning to the mansion, Alan is welcomed back. He thinks about how walking through the streets with his catch attracts a lot of attention. While his storage is limitless, the monster parts are too big to fit through the small opening. In the courtyard, Mihai is sparring with the Knight Commander. Alan arrives and watches, impressed by their skillful movements and the commander using his sword for the first time. As Alan is welcomed back by the family, the Knight Commander praises Mihai for his improvement over the past year. Mihai, however, modestly asks them to stop calling him young master, as he is already 13. Cecil happily notes that the head chef will be pleased with Alan's successful hunt. Mihai then turns his attention to Alan, remarking that he is pretty good, and asks if he has time for a sparring match. Alan is handed a Misril sword by the commander. He checks his status, noting that he wants to fight seriously in hunting mode. The ladies wonder how he can even use such a large sword, despite having defeated a C-rank monster. The commander gets ready to officiate the duel. Mihai, a 1-star swordsman, and Alan, a 5-star summoner, take their stances. As the match begins, Alan reminds himself to be careful and not get hurt. The duel starts with a clash of swords. Mihai immediately goes on the offensive, surprising Alan with his opening move. Alan is immediately overwhelmed by Mihai's attack. He's shocked that the strike wasn't particularly strong, yet he finds himself losing speed and unable to keep up. Mihai easily stops Alan's swing with one hand and launches a counterattack. The Knight Commander reassures a worried Cecil, explaining that Mihai has survived a year at the academy and can't lose to someone who has never been to school. The duel ends abruptly with Mihai's sword held to Alan's throat. The onlookers, who were tense just a moment ago, now applaud and sigh in relief at the conclusion of the match. Mihai praises Alan, calling him excellent for his young age. A breathless Alan can only admit his complete defeat, shocked at how strong Mihai was. Cecil and Krina rush to congratulate their brother on his victory. Mihai then reveals that he has to fight in a dungeon during his summer vacation, a statement that leaves his sisters and Alan in shock. Mihai explains that he will be forced to drop out of the academy if he can't get through the dungeon. He then cheerfully mentions the Holy Sword Doberig at his academy, which piques Alan's and Krina's curiosity. Alan recognizes that Mihai's strength is that of a talented person who has been leveling up for a year, but he vows he will grow 100 times faster in Hell mode. He eagerly asks for a rematch during the next spring break. Mihai laughs and agrees to the rematch, warmly asking Alan to take care of his sister while he is away. Alan nervously agrees and shakes Mihai's hand, realizing that he is steadily establishing his position as a loyal servant. A few days later, Mihai returns to the academy. As Alan and Cecil see him off, Alan feels conflicted. He wants to hunt every day and finds dungeons interesting, but worries he'll be Cecil's servant for life if things continue as they are. A new guest, Viscount Calnell, arrives at the mansion. He loudly presumes the large piece of meat he is served is the boar meat the Baron has been hiding, and remarks on the rarity of seeing a black-haired servant like Alan. While the Baron politely denies hiding anything, Alan watches the Viscount eat and immediately realizes this must be Viscount Calnell, the man behind the king's unreasonable order for boar hunting. The narration explains the local geography. The Granville and Calnell territories are adjacent, separated by a mountain with a mithril vein on the Granville side. Calnell flourishes by mining this mithril, a reversal of the situation 100 years ago when a white dragon was in their territory. Alan connects the dots, concluding that the two territories have been on bad terms for generations because of the conflict over the white dragon and mithril mining. This long-standing feud is likely the reason for Viscount Calnell's poor attitude and the punishing boar hunting order. Viscount Cownell announces he is there to share the results of his youngest daughter's recent appraisal ceremony. She was granted the talent of Spearmaster, and Alan notes that she is the same age as his friend Mashu. To Alan's confusion, Viscount Cownell laughs and declares that, fortunately, his daughter is talentless. The Viscount then mocks Baron Granville, saying he feels sorry for him because 2 of his 3 children have talents. He sneers that the Baron will now have to fulfill the noble's duty just like him, leaving the Baron seething with rage. As the Viscount leaves, Alan ponders the meaning of noble's duty. He wonders why having talent is considered bad when it allows for magnificent things like the airship. He concludes that being a noble is a hassle and is relieved that his friends Mashu and Karina likely won't be involved. By autumn, Alan, now 9 years old, has been working at the Granville house for a year. Wearing his new death spider cloak, he thinks about how the boar hunting season must be starting back in his home village. Alan checks his status screen. He has reached level 24 and is pleased that he is slowly getting all the necessary equipment and has a variety of summoned beasts at his disposal. Looking at his grimoire, he feels a sense of satisfaction. After killing 10,000 goblins, he has finally leveled up. He feels lucky and hopes he can hunt 3 or even 5 times the usual amount today. Feeling confident after leveling up, Alan decides to fight some higher-rank monsters. He summons his hawk, Hook, to scout ahead for D or C-rank prey. Hook quickly spots a target, a C-rank armored ant, a massive creature about 3 meters tall. Alan recognizes it as the monster another hunter named Levin had mentioned. He prepares for battle, summoning his wolf-like beasts, the Thomas. A pack of Alan's summoned beasts, the Thomas, surrounds the giant armored ant. They growl and prepare to attack the C-rank monster. The Thomas launch their assault, but their claws and teeth are ineffective against the ant's tough exoskeleton. Alan realizes that this direct method of attack isn't working. The armored ant proves to be too strong, easily shaking off the attacking Thomas and flinging one of them from its back. Seeing that his Thomas are no match for the ant, Alan quickly changes his strategy. He summons his Ajiha, butterfly-like insects that can use a scales attack. The 2 Ajiha butterflies fly towards the armored ant, releasing a cloud of poisonous scale powder from their wings. The strategy is a success. The poison from the scales works, and the giant C-rank monster collapses. Alan is pleased with this discovery, realizing he can use this same strategy against other tough monsters like white deers. With the giant ant unconscious from the poison, Alan decides to finish it off before it can recover. He climbs onto its back, looking for any wounds the Thomas might have caused. Alan aims for the ant's neck, but even with his offense stat at 438, his dagger can't penetrate the hard shell. He realizes he needs a better dagger just as the monster begins to stir. As the armored ant wakes, Alan panics but puts all his strength into one final, desperate stab, determined not to let it escape. He succeeds. A notification confirms the defeat of the armored ant, rewarding him with 3,000 experience points. Relieved, Alan prepares to collect the magic stones and move on. However, Alan runs into another problem. The ant's shell is too hard for his dagger to penetrate, making it impossible to collect the magic stones. Frustrated, he gives up and sends his birds to look for orcs instead. While scouting with his bird, Alan peeks from behind a tree and spots a large creature in the distance, which he estimates to be around 2 meters tall. He finds a C-rank orc fast asleep. Alan notes that while his summons are never exhausted, normal monsters have to sleep, giving him the perfect opportunity to strike. He summons his Tamas to prepare for an ambush. At Alan's command, the pack of Tamas viciously attacks the sleeping orc, catching it completely by surprise. The ambush is a success, as the orc lets out a cry of pain. Alan watches with satisfaction, pleased that his strategy is working. Enraged, the wounded orc retaliates with a powerful swing of its weapon, managing to take out 3 of Alan's summons in a single strike. Despite the orc's powerful counterattack, Alan remains calm and orders his remaining Tamas to attack it with their scratch ability. The Tamas swarm the orc once more, relentlessly clawing at the beast as it cries out in pain. Alan defeats the orc, earning 1,500 experience points, and decides this will be his next grinding target. He successfully collects the magic stone and celebrates killing a C-rank monster without needing to use traps. He feels a sense of accomplishment, clutching the C-rank magic stone he acquired. However, his confidence is short-lived. He remembers his crushing defeat by Mihai, a 15-year-old from the academy. He reasons that academy alumni, like the Knight Commander, must be far more powerful. Realizing the huge power gap, Alan resolves that in this Hell mode, he must gain much more experience to become stronger and overcome the overwhelmingly powerful people in this world. With his new grinding target set, Alan sets his next goal, to kill 2 orcs at once. He sends his hawk, Hook, to start searching, and a summary shows his successful day's results. 1 armored ant and 15 orcs defeated for a total of 25,500 experience points. Alan is ecstatic. He calculates that if he can handle 40 orcs a day, he'll earn 60,000 experience points, a massive increase from the 25,000 he got from hunting goblins. He happily declares himself the new orc killer as he runs back to the city. The scene shifts to early November. Cecil sternly reminds Alan, who is now dressed back in his servant uniform, to not say anything rude in front of her teacher. He casually agrees. As a present for his first anniversary of servitude, Alan is allowed to attend classes with Cecil. He eagerly thanks the teacher, a man with a long white beard and an eye patch. When asked if he has any questions, Alan decides to test a hypothesis he's been thinking about. He asks the teacher what the conditions are to use magic, wondering if his summoner talent might allow it. Alan believes that since a summoner's intelligence has an S-rank growth rate, it should be usable for learning magic. However, another student scoffs at the talentless servant for even asking. The teacher calms him down, saying he will explain. The teacher gives a blunt and simple answer. To use any spells, you obviously need a talent that allows the use of magic. Without one, it's impossible. Alan is crushed, realizing magic is hopeless for him. When another student points out that even Cecil can't use magic yet, Cecil gets defensive and demands the teacher bring out the crystal ball. Confused, Alan asks if she's a sorcerer. To prove her point, Cecil places her hands on the crystal ball, and it begins to glow, showing she has magical aptitude. Seeing this, Alan excitedly asks if he can try it too. Full of hope, Alan declares he'll see if a summoner can use magic. The teacher allows it, and Alan eagerly places his hands on the crystal ball, while Cecil looks on, but nothing happens. The teacher confirms the result. Magic is impossible for Alan after all. The reality of it leaves Alan in a state of shock. Alan falls into despair. He questions what the point of his high intelligence is if he can't use magic or even win with a sword. His hopeful hypothesis is officially and quietly debunked. Another year has passed since Alan was officially allowed to hunt. In that time, he has become a familiar face in the city, gaining many acquaintances among the other adventurers. While walking through the city, Alan notices a commotion. He hears bells ringing and sees people running in a panic, sensing that something is wrong. He spots a fellow adventurer, Levin, running past with his party. Alan calls out to him, trying to find out what's happening. Levin frantically explains that a B-rank monster, Madagalshu, has appeared near the south gate. His party member vehemently warns Alan not to even think about trying to fight it. Levin adds that the situation is terrible because both the commander and vice commander are absent, meaning there's no one strong enough to fight the monster. Their only choice is to help evacuate the citizens. Alan assesses the situation. He knows most adventurers in the city are talentless and won't fight. Recalling that his duty as the Granville family's hunter is to help those in trouble, he decides he must act. Believing the Baron will forgive him for acting on his own initiative this one time, Alan steels his resolve. He turns towards the danger and declares his challenge to the B-rank monster. Alan rushes ahead toward the south gate, where civilians are in a panic, scrambling to get their wagons and escape the city. The city gate is a scene of chaos as guards try to direct the flow of traffic, shouting for the wounded to move one way, while civilians hurry to evacuate. A guard orders the gate to be closed to stop the monster from getting in. A nobleman desperately pleads with them to wait for his carriage, but it's too late. The monster, having already destroyed a horse, appears just outside the gate. The B-rank monster, Madagalshu, looms over a carriage. It's a terrifying beast, well over 5 meters tall, with a grotesque, grinning face as it savors its kill. The nobleman frantically begs the stunned guards to do something to save his wife and daughter, who are trapped in the carriage. Seeing their hesitation, Alan prepares his grimoire and decides to act. Alan acts decisively, throwing an insect summon that explodes on the monster's face. As the beast recoils, Alan yells, "Hey, over here!" successfully drawing its attention away from the carriage and entirely onto himself. Levin desperately yells for Alan to stop, warning him that provoking the monster will get him killed. Enraged by the taunts, the Madagalshu lets out a furious roar. Alan sees that the monster has taken the bait, but worries that his mana still hasn't recovered. The beast charges with incredible speed, knocking Alan down. Levin and his party can only watch in horror, shocked at how fast it is. Alan gets back to his feet, surprised that the monster isn't pressing its attack. It just stands there, watching him. Instead of attacking, the monster stomps its foot and lets out a guttural noise, seeming to grin at him. Alan realizes with frustration that the powerful beast is just having fun and toying with him. The monster's name, Madagalshu, triggers a memory for Alan. His father named his friend Mashu after this very monster. Horrified at his dad's terrible naming sense, Alan wonders if this is some kind of sick turn-based battle. Determined to make the monster regret its arrogance, Alan opens his grimoire. With his mana still low, he prepares a new strategy. Alan summons multiple E-rank bug and bird cards, which merge with him to boost his endurance and agility. He knows he needs to increase his stats to have any chance of dodging the monster's attacks. The Madagalshu seems surprised by his sudden burst of speed. Watching from the city gate, Levin realizes Alan's plan. He's using himself as bait to lure the monster away. Once he's a safe distance from the city, Alan summons his Ajiha butterflies and commands them to put the beast to sleep. As he continues to lead the monster further away, Alan repeatedly orders his Ajiha butterflies to attack, hoping their sleep-inducing powder will eventually take effect. Exhausted, Alan finally stops deep in the forest. He clutches his grimoire, realizing with a sinking feeling that he has lost track of the monster. Panic sets in. All of his debuff attempts have failed, and he comes to the grim conclusion that it's impossible for him to defeat this monster on his own. Accepting defeat, Alan decides to retreat for now. He consoles himself that he at least lured the beast far away from the city. He resolves to gain more experience and return for revenge later. But the Madagalshu is relentless. It smashes through the trees and continues its pursuit, roaring persistently. Cornered, Alan is surrounded by his summons, preparing for a final, desperate battle. 3 days later, a battered and wounded Alan finally stumbles back toward the city. The guards at the gates spot him, and the Knight Commander recognizes him immediately. Alan collapses from his injuries and exhaustion. The guards rush to his side, immediately calling for a doctor and ordering someone to contact the Baron. Alan awakens in a guest room to find Cecil by his side. She's relieved he's finally awake after sleeping for 2 days straight, stating it's natural to be worried for her personal servant. The Baron and his wife also enter, glad that he is okay. Later, Alan stands before the Baron, who sternly asks what he was thinking by acting so recklessly on his own. Alan apologizes for acting without permission, saying he could only run away. However, the Knight Commander interjects, stating that Alan did nothing wrong and that thanks to him, the city suffered minimal damage. On behalf of the Knights, he thanks Alan for fulfilling their duty. The Baron rewards Alan with 10 gold coins, and the family from the carriage he saved adds another 10, totaling 20 gold coins. Alan is ecstatic, realizing he can buy a better weapon. The Baron simply warns him not to stray too far from the city next time. With his reward money, Alan purchases a new mithril sword. He tests it on a beetle-like monster with a hard shell and easily cuts it down, a feat his old dagger couldn't accomplish. Alan celebrates his new, very sharp mithril sword. He's confident that monsters with hard armor will no longer be a problem. Furthermore, he reveals he made another happy discovery during his ordeal. Alan realizes that the memories from a previous summon are carried over to the newly summoned one. His hawk, Hook, still remembers the fight with Madagalshu and actively watches for it. He understands now that his summons are entities that store all their hard-earned information and continue to grow along with him. The scene opens with an intense sword duel. Mihai, the Baron's son who has just returned from the academy, relentlessly attacks Alan. Alan, though on the defensive, parries the fierce blows while the rest of the family watches on. Watching from the sidelines, Mihai's sister, Cecil, questions if Alan has gotten weaker than before. The duel reaches its climax as Mihai's sword strikes forward, knocking Alan's blade out of his hand and onto the ground. Alan clenches his fists in frustration, angry that he lost again despite his growth. Meanwhile, Mihai is showered with praise by his family for his amazing performance. Cecil tells the dejected Alan to practice more, while Mihai assures her that he will take care of her, solidifying his role as the dependable older brother. Later, at the dinner table, the family discusses Alan's past achievements. They are surprised to hear that Alan had previously fought against the Madagalshu. The consensus is that it's a dangerous B-rank beast, and there's no way Alan could have defeated it by himself. The Baron encourages his son, Mihai, to continue improving and become even stronger. Mihai agrees respectfully. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted when a guard bursts into the room with urgent news, asking for the Lord Baron. The guard frantically announces the shocking news that has the entire room on edge. The legendary White Dragon has awakened. Alan is stunned to hear about the White Dragon, an A-rank beast that has been dormant for 100 years. The situation becomes more dire as the guard reports that an adventure guild saw the dragon flying towards the Kalnal territory, causing the Baron and his wife to worry. An advisor proposes a plan to investigate the new settlement of the White Dragon, starting with the 4 main mines in the surrounding area. The Baron listens intently, considering the course of action. The Baron expresses his concern, stating that such an investigation would likely take months due to the high-rank goblins and orcs infesting the foothills. In stark contrast, Mihai and the younger members of the family are visibly excited, viewing this as a historic event unfolding after a century of peace. The Baron's wife agrees with Mihai's excitement. The advisor adds a word of caution, suggesting they keep the matter secret as the dragon might still return. Overhearing everything, Alan understands the gravity of the situation, realizing they are in trouble and that he must prepare himself for what's to come. After a fruitful first week of training, Alan reviews his progress. He's reached level 5 in combining and summoning skills. His grimoire has expanded, and most importantly, he's gained the comradeship skill. His stat sheet shows a significant boost in all his abilities, marking a major step up in his journey. He notes the movement of the White Dragon and plans to check it out. Alan examines his newly acquired comradeship skill. While a D-rank summoner skill might seem low, he's eager to test its potential, hoping it proves as useful as his storage ability. He activates it with his summoned bird, Hook. As soon as he activates the skill, Alan is taken aback. He stares in shock as his summoned bird, Hook, lets out a peculiar cry, indicating that something unexpected is happening. Alan is astonished as he realizes the true power of his new skill. He can now share senses with his summon. This is observation assimilation, allowing him to see everything through Hook's eyes. His excitement grows as he discovers the assimilation isn't limited to just vision. He can also share Hook's hearing. As the bird soars through the sky, Alan feels as if he's the one riding the wind high above the forest. Combined with his Hawkeye skill, Alan can now see for miles ahead. He notes a limitation. He can't issue direct orders when Hook is out of a certain range, but the potential of this scouting ability is incredibly interesting. Alan draws a parallel to his past life as a gamer. This ability is like controlling multiple characters at once through different screens. He realizes that as long as a summon has an intelligence stat above 100, there's no limit to how many he can control simultaneously. It dawns on him that increasing his intelligence is the key. For each summon under his comradeship, he needs 200 intelligence points, meaning with his current 1,200 points, he can control 6 summons. Holding a vast amount of D-rank magic stones, he eagerly decides to see what new D-rank animals he can now summon. Alan looks on in awe at the new D-rank summons available to him. The first 2 presented are Buran, a formidable stone-type golem with high endurance, and Harami, a fish-type creature with high magic power. A variety of other D-rank summons are displayed. These include a large bear, an owl named Nuru with a night eye skill, a spider with spider silk, a plant creature called Jagabata, and a small, newly hatched-looking creature. Alan processes the information about his new summons. He realizes that with the exception of Jagabata, all of them have an intelligence stat above 100. This means he can control them remotely using his comradeship skill. He does note, however, that he is sad he can't give team orders from a distance to summons like Tama, but he already has a team with Hook. A thrilling realization hits Alan. From now on, he can just use his summons to hunt beasts remotely. Overflowing with excitement at this game-changing strategy, he decides to test it out immediately on a nearby group of armored insects. Alan puts his new remote command strategy into action. He orders his spider to shoot its silk to immobilize an armored ant, then immediately commands his powerful bear to move in and finish it off. The battle is a swift and overwhelming success. It only took a few hits from his summoned creatures to defeat the armored ant. Alan claps his hands in delight, a satisfied smile on his face as he confirms that he can finally command a coordinated team of summons to fight for him effectively. His newly formed remote summons team stands triumphantly. With this success, Alan immediately begins to strategize their formation and roles. He designates Horu the bird and Hook the owl for reconnaissance during the day and night respectively. Meanwhile, he plans to utilize Harami's ability to greatly increase the team's evasiveness, laying the groundwork for a versatile and efficient hunting party. Alan clenches his fists, realizing the most broken aspect of his comradeship skill. His summons only need to be called once to continuously gain experience for 30 days, even while he sleeps. He then instructs his new team, warning them not to get too close to strangers and not to fight back if attacked, prioritizing their survival and steady growth. As he walks through the forest, Alan marvels at his incredible new talent. Remotely controlling 8 summons doesn't feel uncomfortable at all, and he feels his own strength has suddenly increased. He realizes the ability to observe such a large area must have many other applications, and as his bird summon flies towards the distant mountain range of the White Dragon, an interesting idea begins to form in his mind. Through the eyes of his summon, Alan discovers a settlement named Karina Village. Below, he spots 2 young warriors, a girl with a sword and a boy carrying a large axe, preparing to face off in a practice duel. The 2 young warriors ready themselves for battle. On the right is Karina, a talented 3-star sword saint, and on the left is Dagora, a 1-star axe user. With weapons drawn, they both yell "Come!" and charge at each other. The 2 clash in a dynamic flurry of action, with Karina letting out a powerful shout as she swings her large sword against Dagora's axe. Nearby, another young boy is called to practice. This is Ma Shu, a 1-star spear master who eagerly runs to join the training, spear slung over his shoulder. The trio of young warriors, Karina, an annoyed Dagora, and a smiling Ma Shu, gather after their sparring session, showcasing the next generation of fighters from the village. Alan continues his reconnaissance, his bird summon flying high above the village. It silently perches on a branch, observing a man diligently working the fields below. While working, a man looks up and comments on the strange-looking bird flying by. Elsewhere, Alan uses his summon to visit a small home, where a mother, Miura, gently braids her young daughter's hair, telling her to stay still. For Alan, This is a way to feel close to his own family. After she finishes, the mother and daughter are puzzled to find a single gold coin on the floor, a secret gift left behind by Alan through his summon. Back at the Baron's mansion, Alan is seen dutifully sweeping the floors. He looks out the window, feeling amazing. He has designated a new bird summon, Chiapai, to visit his home every day, using comradeship to check in on his family from afar. The story jumps forward in time. It is now October, and Alan is 10 years old, having served at the Baron's house for 2 years. A meeting is underway where the Baron discusses the mining situation. Just as they feared, after 100 years of absence, the area is now teeming with magic beasts. An advisor delivers a grim report. Magic beasts are gathering not just in the mines, but also near the mithril refinery. Restoring just the nearest coal mine will require a massive effort to clear the beasts, recruit miners, and build a transport route, a process estimated to take a staggering 3 years, much to the Baron's shock. The Baron and his advisor conclude that, as they expected, the miners' hasty exploitation of the mines angered the White Dragon. Listening in while serving, Alan feels a shiver of fear, grateful that he didn't use his comradeship to observe the A-rank beast directly, worried his summons would have run back in fear. In another part of the territory, an important-looking official is informed that the Night Order's punishment has officially begun. He gives an order to promote the mithril mining plan, hinting at political schemes unfolding behind the scenes. Through his bird's eyes, Alan surveys a goblin encampment. The sight of not only adult goblins but also their young makes him hesitate for a moment, a flicker of doubt crossing his mind. Any hesitation Alan had vanishes in an instant. His bird flies over a horrifying pile of human skeletons. Below, goblins are seen gnawing on bones, having clearly eaten humans and stolen their weapons. The gruesome sight fills Alan with cold fury. A profound change occurs within Alan. He reflects that he used to hesitate, viewing monsters merely as a supply of experience points. But now, faced with the brutal reality of their actions, his eyes narrow with an unyielding and grim determination. Sitting with his grimoire open, surrounded by his powerful bear and insect summons, Alan makes a new vow. This time, there will be no hesitation. He will kill all of the goblins, leaving not a single one alive. The assault begins. Alan initiates the attack by commanding his fish summon, Harami, to swing away, likely creating a buff or diversion for the rest of the team. Harami's ability grants a dodge-up status to the bear and spider summons, increasing their evasiveness. As the surprised goblins look on, Alan gives the command for the bears to charge in first. The bears, empowered and enraged, crash into the goblin lines with brutal force, tearing them apart in a vicious and overwhelming onslaught. The goblin defenses are no match for Alan's summons. A large goblin tries to hold the line with a shield, but the bears easily swarm over the wooden barricade, demonstrating their superior strength. The battle's dynamic shifts as a goblin archer appears on the fortifications. It looses a volley of arrows, but Alan's spider summon immediately counters, spewing a thick web that intercepts the projectiles mid-air, completely neutralizing the ranged threat. From his vantage point, Alan quickly adapts his strategy. Recognizing the danger of stealthy ranged attackers, he issues a precise command, directing his spider and bird summons to prioritize and eliminate the archers. With his team now managing both ground and air threats, Alan calmly oversees the unfolding battle, ready for the enemy's next move. As his summons continue their rampage, Alan watches his EXP notifications pop up. He sees the main force of the goblins emerge from their fortress and calmly says, "Here they come." A massive horde of enraged goblins, armed with swords and spears, pours out from their encampment, charging furiously onto the battlefield. Unfazed by the goblin horde, Alan stands confidently with his grimoire open, surrounded by his army of massive bear summons. A goblin looks on in shock as Alan gives the decisive command, "My bears, go and destroy them all." The goblins attempt to flee, but find their escape route cut off by another squadron of Alan summons. Alan smirks, revealing his strategy. It's no use running away. I already deployed my troops that way. He has them completely surrounded. The battlefield descends into chaos as Alan's bears relentlessly tear through the trapped goblins, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. With 20 bears in the fight, Alan is confident of his victory. Suddenly, a powerful roar echoes from the goblins' side, and a massive shadow looms over them. Alan's eyes widen in surprise as a new, much larger threat appears. The boss finally appears, a hulking, C-rank goblin king, wielding a massive axe. Alan recognizes the formidable foe, noting that the heady opponent has finally shown himself. The Goblin King dismisses Alan's summons, but Alan's warriors, who have already defeated thousands of C-rank beasts, stand their ground, ready to prove he is no match for them. The battle against the king is over in an instant. With a final guttural cry, the Goblin King falls. A notification immediately pops up, confirming its defeat and awarding Alan a bonus of 4,200 EXP. Standing amidst the carnage and the Goblin King's fallen axe, Alan issues his next command to his bear summons, to gather all the goblin corpses in one place. Alan begins the grim but necessary task of harvesting the magic stones from the piles of goblin bodies. Once he's collected them all, he turns to the remaining corpses, ready to dispose of them. To clean up the aftermath, Alan conveniently pulls a lit torch from his item storage. He sets the massive pile of goblin bodies ablaze, creating a large pyre. With his summons watching, he declares the quest at the goblin village complete. Following his past life's customs, Alan offers a prayer for the spirits of the dead, intending to hand over the human remains to the knights. He checks his results. 223 goblins defeated for a massive gain of 48,800 EXP. As he watches the smoke from the pyre rise into the sky, Alan sets his future goals. He plans to continue conquering goblin villages for the next few months to level up enough to face the formidable Madagalshu and eventually challenge the Orc King. The story jumps forward to March. A familiar airship signals the return of Mihai, who has now graduated from the academy. His sister Cecil is overjoyed that the family could be together again, but as Alan observes their reunion, he senses that something about Mihai is very strange. Mihai affectionately pats a teary-eyed Cecil on the head, noting that she's already 10 years old. He then turns his attention to Alan, and with an intense, serious expression, challenges him to a fight. Alan acknowledges that Mihai is different this year, but he was planning to challenge him anyway. The family looks on. The ladies comment on how strange and intense Mihai is acting, while the Baron and his wife watch with concerned expressions. Preparing for the duel, Alan checks his status. Now, level 34, he summons his best single battle configuration, buffing his stats with 30 insect and 20 animal summons. With his holder status complete, he faces Mihai, determined to win this time. Alan, the 6-star summoner, and Mihai, the 1-star swordsman, face each other and cross swords and thanks before the match. At the Baron's signal to begin, the duel erupts in a blur of motion. Mihai lunges with a swift and powerful thrust, but a much-improved Alan easily dodges the attack, demonstrating his newfound speed. Alan's agility has almost doubled from the previous year, now reaching an incredible 1483. With this massive boost in speed, he is confident that this time he will finally defeat Mihai. Alan presses his attack, launching a fierce strike. To his shock and frustration, Mihai, despite being slower, manages to block the blow. Damn it, he can still block it. Alan thinks, stunned by his opponent's defense. Alan continues his high-speed assault, confirming that he is indeed faster. However, Mihai remains calm and composed, seemingly unfazed by Alan's movements, which puzzles him. Alan unleashes a furious combination of strikes, surrounding Mihai with a whirlwind of attacks from multiple angles at once. The female onlookers watch in shock, believing Mihai is losing to Alan's relentless assault. However, the Baron calmly corrects them, stating, "No, not really," hinting that the battle is not as one-sided as it appears. Mihai, with a sharp, focused gaze, expertly deflects Alan's flurry of attacks, showing no signs of strain despite being on the defensive. The intense duel continues. Alan grows frustrated, wondering how Mihai can still block all his attacks when he's obviously faster. He questions if Mihai is somehow able to read his movements. Ultimately, Alan collapses in defeat, lamenting, "I lost again." He questions if it's because his physical strength is too low. The Baron declares Mihai the winner once more. However, Alan notices that this time, Mihai doesn't offer a handshake, looking away with a somber expression. The Baron proudly commends Mihai, noting how much stronger he has become after 3 years of training at the academy. Mihai smiles and respectfully thanks his father. Cecil rushes to Alan, praising him for getting stronger and for keeping his promise to fight her brother. With a cheerful smile, she adds that while he's improved, he still can't be compared to the amazing Mihai. Playfully, Cecil suggests that Alan become Mihai's disciple to learn the way of the sword. The woman beside her agrees, saying she should learn from him as well. Alan seems to consider the honorable proposal. Mihai interrupts with a serious tone, gathering Cecil and Thomas to make an announcement. He reveals that he must perform his nobility's obligation for the next 3 years, during which time he will not be able to return home. The news comes as a complete shock to everyone. Mihai apologizes for the suddenness. When Cecil asks what the obligation is, he can't reveal the details. The Baron gravely confirms that it begins tomorrow. The family is heartbroken. The Baron and his wife look on with somber faces as a tearful Cecil says she wants to stay with him longer. Mihai comforts her, promising to write letters and assuring her he will return after the 3 years are over. Alan overhears the household staff gossiping. They reveal that the nobility's obligation is a duty for all nobles with talent once they turn 15. Since 2 of the Baron's children have talent, he has been mentally prepared for this day. Despite the explanation, Alan can't shake the feeling that something is fishy. Later, Alan asks another servant, Rickle, about the mysterious obligation. His suspicion grows when Rickle, who has worked at the mansion for 12 years, admits he has never heard of it before. The next day, Mihai descends the grand staircase. Alan is shocked to see him dressed, not in formal wear, but in a full set of armor, ready for battle. A maid gently pushes a silent, distraught Cecil forward to say her goodbyes. Mihai embraces his crying sister, telling her he'll see her soon. Through her tears, Cecil promises she will wait for him to return. The Baron and his wife offer their son words of encouragement, telling him that he is the pride of the Grabiel family and that he must do a good job and come back to them safely. As Mihai walks towards the exit, the entire household staff lines up to wish him a safe journey. Just as he is about to leave, he suddenly stops and turns, pulling a very surprised Alan into a hug. In a serious tone, Mihai entrusts Alan with a heavy responsibility. "Aran, take good care of Cecil. Please protect her." Alan, though shocked, understands and accepts. As Mihai turns to leave, Alan notices that the young master's hand is shaking. With a final, determined look, Mihai declares that he is setting off to fulfill his obligation for the family, then boards the waiting carriage and departs. The family waves a tearful farewell. Alan stands by Cecil, reflecting on the future. After 3 years, Mihai will be gone, and Cecil will be off to the academy. He solidifies his vow to devote himself to protecting her. 2 months pass since Mihai's departure. A montage reveals Alan's incredible progress. He's already a step faster than the Night Order, and since starting his Goblin Extermination campaign last October, he has destroyed 52 strongholds and defeated over 10,000 goblins, effectively clearing the White Dragon Mountain area. Alan knows the Night Order will arrive tomorrow, so he feels the need to hurry his plans. He clenches his fist, excited that even before conquering the final village, his level has already jumped significantly from 30 to 35. Using his bird summons for aerial reconnaissance, Alan surveys his next and final target in this region, a massive Orcs village, the one place he has yet to conquer. He plans a pincer strategy, placing an ambush team at the back while he attacks from the front. Alan assembles his forces. He has a new summon, the Golem Brawn, whose protect talent will be key for supporting against ranged attacks. Surrounded by his army of bears and spiders, he declares, "My brothers, let's get started." The hunt begins. The battle begins as orc mages unleash fireballs upon his army. Seeing the familiar attack, Alan immediately commands his golem, "Brawn, protect now." Brawn's protective shield intercepts the fireballs, but the heat is still intense. The orcs laugh, but Alan smirks, confident that at this rate, he can still handle the assault. The orc mages continue their relentless assault, launching a continuous barrage of fireballs that creates a wall of flame, scorching the battlefield and crashing down upon Alan's summons. Realizing the orc mages are smart enough to aim for spots his golem isn't covering, Alan quickly takes matters into his own hands, pulling out an iron ball and hurling it with all his might. His aim is true. The iron ball strikes one of the C-rank magic orcs, defeating it instantly and earning him 2,000 EXP. With a confident grin, he taunts the others, "Come take this." With only 2 iron balls left, Alan knows he can't afford to miss. But as he prepares to throw, he's shocked to find that his targets have vanished. "Huh, where are they?" he yells in confusion. To his dismay, the orc mages have retreated out of his attack range, weakening his battle strength. He looks on in horror as his summons are decimated by fireballs, and the battlefield is still swarming with hundreds of orcs. "Are you kidding me?" he cries out in despair. The battle has turned bitter, and Alan knows he can no longer play defensively. He has enough magic stones to summon another 20,000 bears and a special skill to restore his mana. He forms a defensive wall of 30 warriors, prepared to fight until his magic power is completely exhausted. Just as the front line is being pushed back, Alan's pincer attack begins. From the rear of the orc village, his ambush team, led by his slime and insect summons, launches a surprise assault, throwing the enemy into chaos. Suddenly, a deafening roar shakes the entire battlefield. A massive shadow falls over the village as a new, far more powerful enemy makes its grand entrance. Alan's eyes widen in terror as he watches from afar. "It's here," he thinks, recognizing the immense power. This new foe is on the same level as the dreaded Madagashu. The B-rank Orc King stands revealed, a monstrous behemoth standing 4 meters tall and wielding a giant poleaxe. It towers over the battlefield, making even Alan's large bear summons look tiny in comparison. With a single, mighty roar, the Orc King unleashes a devastating spinning attack. The massive swing of its poleaxe wipes out a huge portion of Alan's bear army in one hit. Alan is left speechless, completely shocked by this overwhelming display of power. Panic sets in as Alan realizes the dire situation. He's losing his army faster than he can summon them, and the bears are no match for the Orc King's sheer size. He desperately tries to create and enhance more D-rank animal summons to reinforce his crumbling front line. The Orc King charges forward, shrugging off the attacks from Alan's remaining forces. It swings its mighty axe again. Alan screams for his golem, Brawn, to intercept, but his prized defender is also struck down by the relentless magical assault. The heat from a magic is intense. To Alan's horror, even his powerful golem summon, Brawn, is defeated. Despair begins to set in as the Orc King continues its unstoppable rampage. In a desperate move, Alan sacrifices his remaining bear summons, throwing them at the Orc King to buy even a moment of time. "Sorry, bear," he cries out as his loyal summons are swatted away. The Orc King's powerful swing sends Alan flying. His forces are decimated, and he takes damage himself, crying out in pain. He quickly uses Mameteru's special skill, Fruit of Life, to recover 1,000 HP and stay in the fight. Pushed into a corner and sweating profusely, Alan frantically considers his options. What now? Should he keep fighting until the bitter end? Is there any possibility of regaining the initiative against this overwhelmingly powerful enemy? With his forces shattered and facing an impossible opponent, Alan stares at the destruction before him. He is left with only one logical, yet painful, choice: retreat. Just as all hope seems lost, a calm voice remarks, What a bitter battle. Alan looks up in shock to see a tall, imposing man in knight's armor standing beside him, having appeared out of nowhere. Alan is stunned. It's the knight commander, who wasn't supposed to arrive until tomorrow. As the commander asks what he was doing, Alan's mind races, trying to think of a way to run now that his secret summoning army has been exposed. The commander tells Alan to head back, but to Alan's surprise, he calmly walks past the summoned beasts, ignoring them completely. He heads straight for the Orc King and the remaining orcs, who look on in confusion. Alan recalls the rumors. The strongest man in the Grabial territory was said to be able to defeat Madagascar alone. He watches in awe as the Knight Commander faces the monstrous Orc King without a single shred of fear. The Knight Commander makes a bold declaration. I will defeat the Orc King myself. The rest is up to you. His vice captain, Raybrand, acknowledges the order with a firm yes, sir. Alan realizes the deputy team has also arrived in a hurry. Though he's annoyed that he can't monopolize the EXP from this fight, he sees it as a perfect opportunity to witness the true power of these two legendary knights. The stats of the two powerful knights are revealed. The vice captain, a 1-star spearman, and the knight commander, a formidable 2-star swordsman. As the knight commander stands his ground, his vice captain, Raybrand, casually remarks, Hey, isn't it a bit risky to stand like that? Alan agrees, thinking the commander is far too close to the monstrous Orc King. The Orc King brings its massive axe down in a devastating blow meant to crush the commander. But in a stunning display of speed and skill, the Knight Commander effortlessly dodges the attack, and in the same fluid motion draws his sword, his hand gripping the hilt, ready to unleash a counterattack of his own. Xenoph, the Knight Commander, readies his blade with a calm intensity. On the other side, a massive Orc King roars, its raw power shaking the very air. This is the start of a demonstration that young Arin will never forget. In a flash of steel, Xenoph strikes. Arin watches from the distance, his eyes wide with a mix of shock and admiration. He realized right then that the gap between a regular soldier and a knight commander is an absolute abyss. As the smoke clears, more magic orcs emerge, but Xenoph doesn't even flinch. He notices the true threat hidden in the back. The mage orcs responsible for the fire. It's time to get serious. With a leap that defies his heavy armor, Xenoph plunges into the heart of the horde. He's not just swinging wild. Every move is a calculated masterstroke of efficiency. Poor orcs never stood a chance. The commander's gaze is cold and focused as he cuts through the ranks. Even surrounded by howling monsters, he remains the deadliest thing on this battlefield. Arin can barely keep up with his movements. A single thrust of his spear sends a shockwave through the air, tearing through multiple enemies at once. This isn't just a fight, it's an execution. Blood sprays as another monster falls before Xenoph's overwhelming speed. He moves with a predatory grace that makes the orc's brute strength look pathetic in comparison. Arin notices the tactical brilliance. Xenoph went straight for the mage orc to neutralize the fire magic. The commander isn't just a powerhouse. He's a veteran strategist who knows exactly where to hit. Standing amidst the smoke and fire, Xenoph is a vision of unstoppable power. The remaining orcs hesitate, their morale shattering as they face the man who just dismantled their vanguard single-handedly. He finishes them off with a wide, horizontal slash. It's a clean sweep. Arin can only watch in silence, trying to process the sheer scale of the power he just witnessed. The Orc King is defeated just like that. As the monster falls, Arin realizes that even without special skills, Xenoph's basic swordsmanship is leagues beyond anything he imagined. It's a sobering realization for the young gamer. Xenoph stands over the split corpse of the Orc King, sheathing his sword as if he'd just finished a light workout. No special extra skills, just raw, overwhelming talent and training. Awesome. Arin can't help but be awestruck. He starts comparing Xenoph's moves to the skills he's seen before, realizing that true talent doesn't always need flashy effects to be deadly. He wonders if he'll ever reach that level in his hell mode. The fight is over, and Xenoph tells Arin to stay close while they wait for the other knights. But Arin, being the pragmatic gamer he is, asks if he can loot the magic stones from the corpses. Xenoph just shrugs and lets him have at it. As evening falls, they decide to burn the barracks to prevent more monsters from returning. The rest of the knights join them, and they prepare to head back for some well-earned rest. Night falls over the camp. While Arin enjoys some roasted meat by the fire, the atmosphere turns serious. Xenoph is watching him, his silence making the young boy feel a bit uneasy. Then comes the heavy question: how many did you kill? Xenoph reveals he knows Arin has been hunting alone. He's been connecting the dots, the magic feathers, the wiped-out goblin village, and he knows Arin is far from a normal kid. Xenoph lists the evidence: demonic beast corpses with their magic stones missing, traces of a burnt-out village. Arin realizes his secret solo hunts haven't been so secret after all. The commander has seen right through him. The memory of the appraisal 5 years ago comes back, the blinding light, the E-rank stats, the crawling talent. Everyone thought he was a failure, but Xenoph is starting to think otherwise. Xenoph believes Arin has a hidden talent to fight alongside animals, something the official appraisal couldn't see. He's offering Arin a path forward, acknowledging his strength instead of fearing it. Arin sweats, trying to maintain his cover while eating. He can't exactly admit that he's a gamer from another world with special powers. That would definitely lead to a whole world of trouble. Xenoph gives a small smile, telling him he'll know the answer when the time comes. For now, he's willing to keep Arin's secret, but there's always a catch. The deal is simple. Xenoph won't tell the Baron about Arin's secret hunting, but in exchange, Arin must provide a detailed report of every single monster he hunts. They're partners in this secret now. Overwhelmed by a mix of guilt and gratitude, Arin decides it's time to pay back the favor. He offers to wash the commander's back, a small gesture of thanks for saving his life and keeping his secret safe. It's a moment that truly seals their new, unspoken bond. Arin gets to work preparing the bath water, his mind racing. Life in this world just got a whole lot more complicated, but having an ally like Xenoph might be exactly what he needs for his hell mode journey. He takes a deep breath and steps forward, ready to help the commander, but he isn't prepared for what he's about to see. As Xenoph, Knight Commander, removes his shirt, the sight of his back leaves Arin speechless. It's a map of 1,000 battles, covered in a network of deep, jagged scars that tell a story of a lifetime spent on the front lines. Arin stares in shock, wondering how anyone could even survive such horrific injuries. He offers some healing medicine, but Xenoph simply dismisses it with a stoic, "I'm fine," his voice betraying none of the pain those marks must have caused. While washing the commander's back, Arin's mind drifts to his own progress, determined to one day defeat an Orc king on his own. Xenoph breaks the silence with a surprisingly soft question, asking if Arin actually feels happy while hunting. Arin beams with a pure, infectious smile. To him, the feeling of constant practice and seeing himself get stronger is the greatest joy he's ever known. It's the heart of a true gamer, even in this life-or-death world. As Arin works, he notices that even these old battle scars seem to be fading slightly, a sign that in this world, increasing one's level can heal even the most permanent-looking wounds. Xenoph watches him, perhaps seeing a glimmer of his younger self in the boy's enthusiasm. The night deepens at the camp. While Arin sleeps soundly, exhausted from his day, Xenoph sits awake by the fire, a silent sentinel watching over the boy he's decided to guide in secret. In the distance, other knights keep watch through the trees. Arin reflects on the massive 25,000 EXP he gained from the Orc King. His plan worked perfectly. Use the bears to surround the village and prioritize the magical orcs to prevent them from casting spells. It's a flawless tactical victory. The strategy was sound. A relentless stream of summoned bears to wear down the Orc King's forces without putting himself at risk. The result? A staggering 335,000 EXP from the entire village. Success really is the mother of failure, or in this case, a massive level up. Admiring his prize, Arin holds up his very first B-rank magic stone. It's a massive step forward, even if it cost him over 120 D-rank stones to pull off. He's already calculating how to optimize his resources for the next hunt. Time flies, and by October, Arin has turned 11. He's been a man of his word, thoroughly reporting his destruction of 20 orc villages to Xenoph. The Knight Commander listens, impressed by the boy's relentless progress over the months. News arrives that the mithril mining cycle has been shortened, a huge boon for the territory's economy. Arin is already looking ahead to next year, his eyes set on hunting the legendary armor ants. Everything seems to be falling into place. Dressed in formal attire, Arin prepares for the day he turns 12 and can finally begin his life as an adventurer. But the peaceful atmosphere is shattered by a sudden announcement. Royal messengers have arrived at the Grabiel house. The Sujia, Kwavua, enters the manor with an air of cold, haughty authority. Arin immediately dislikes the man, suspecting he's only there to squeeze more taxes out of the Grabiel family. Nam Toak Grabiel welcomes him, unaware of the shadow looming over them. The messenger offers an oily compliment about the Baron's devotion to the crown. His words are smooth, too smooth, and it only makes the tension in the room grow thicker. Something is definitely not right. Arin finds the messenger's sudden sweetness incredibly suspicious. The man produces a box and asks the Baron to receive its contents personally. Inside, there is a single official-looking letter. The atmosphere in the room briefly lightens. The family assumes the letter is from Mihai, the eldest son and the pride of the Grabiel house. Cecil Grabiel and her mother share a hopeful smile, eager for news from the front lines. But the Baron's face drains of all color as he begins to read. His wife's hand flies to her mouth in horror, and Cecil's confusion turns to dread. The messenger stands there, a cold observer of the tragedy he just delivered. The messenger's words are a death knell. He did his best for the nobility obligation and passed away. Mihai Grabiel, the family's hope and protector, is dead. The news hits the room like a physical blow. Complete, soul-crushing shock. Everyone in the room, Arin, Cecil, the Baron, and the staff, is frozen in disbelief. The silence that follows is more deafening than any scream. Nam Toak Grabiel is in a state of frantic denial, shouting that it's only been 6 months and Mihai had just graduated from the academy. He can't accept that his son was sent to such a deadly place. But the messenger remains unmoved, even subtly threatening the Baron for questioning royalty. The Baron's wife collapses in grief, the reality of the loss finally breaking her. The messenger, showing no empathy, simply bids his farewell, mentioning he has other lords to visit and that they can discuss funeral money later. His callousness is staggering. The manor falls into a dark, heavy silence after the messenger leaves. The Baron hugs his daughter, Cecil Grabiel, who is shaking with tears, and orders everyone else to leave them alone in their grief. Arin watches, his heart heavy for the family he's come to care for. The doors close on the Baron and Cecil, leaving the rest of the household in the hallway. Arin finds it strange that only Cecil was called in, but he knows the family's world has just been irrevocably shattered. The mansion is consumed by a heavy, suffocating silence, broken only by the quiet weeping of the maids for the young master. Time itself feels frozen in the morning halls, yet beneath the surface of this grief, a bitter resentment is beginning to stir. Arin stands alone with his thoughts, staring at the closed doors where the Baron and Cecil have retreated. He can only imagine the contents of that last letter, unaware that the quiet mourning is about to explode into a desperate cry for justice against the cold chains of nobility obligation. Inside the manor, the grief has turned into a bitter argument. Cecil Grabiel screams at her father, Nam Toak Grabiel, questioning why they have to be sacrificed for a heartless nobility obligation. The Baron can only reply with the same tired lines about duty, causing Cecil to bolt from the room in a fit of rage and sorrow. Tears stream down Cecil's face as she runs. The weight of losing her brother and the fear of the same fate being forced upon her is too much for her young heart to bear. She's not just mourning, she's terrified of her own future. Aaron watches from the hallway, broom still in hand. He realizes that if nothing changes, Cecil will be forced to walk the same tragic path as Mihai. Even the Baron looks like a broken man. His pride as a noble crushed by the reality of his son's death. What is this thing, Baron? Aaron thinks, the unfairness of the world gnawing at him. The Baron sits alone, his head in his hands. The nobility obligation he so staunchly defended has cost him everything. He's no longer a proud lord. He's just a grieving father who doesn't know how to fix his family. Our mind is racing. He sees the Baron talking to the staff, but his focus is on Cecil. He knows this family is trapped by their status, forced into a cycle of duty that only leads to an early grave. Is this the duty of all nobles? He wonders. They seem to have no other choice. Dinner is served, but nobody is eating. The old butler tries to knock on Cecil's door, hoping she'll at least try to have a bite. Aaron stands by with the tray, the silence from inside the room growing more ominous by the second. The door finally opens, but the room is empty. The Baron, exhausted and broken, decides to let her be for the night, unaware that Cecil has already fled. Aaron hears that the younger brother, Thomas, is already panicking. The weight of being the next sacrifice is settling on him now. The next morning, the staff is in a hushed panic. Aaron hears rumors from the other servants that the Grabiel family is cursed with short lives. Every generation, they lose their best and brightest to this relentless obligation. It's a tragic legacy that no amount of gold can fix. Aaron realizes just how cruel this noble life truly is. To be born with everything only to have your life taken away by a system you didn't choose. Suddenly, a maid's scream breaks the quiet. Emergency! Cecil is nowhere to be found. The mansion erupts into chaos. The Baron shouts orders for everyone to split up and search every floor. Madame is on the verge of another collapse, and the fear for Cecil's safety is palpable. She's just a little girl, alone in the world. Aaron spots the open window in Cecil's room. He realizes she must have climbed out during the night. While the others search the house, Aaron's instincts as a gamer kick in. She's not in the manor. She's escaped into the city. Aaron doesn't waste a second. He asks the butler for permission to search outside, and the moment he's out of sight, he activates his summoning skills. "Look," he calls out, sending a swarm of birds into the sky to act as his eyes. This is a search and rescue mission he's perfectly suited for. Sharing vision with his summoned birds, Aaron scans the streets. He calculates her likely escape route. The main door was too risky, so she must have used the back entrance. He's hunting for a needle in a haystack, but he has the tools to find her. "Please don't do anything foolish," he prays. In the dark, narrow alleys of the town, a small, shivering figure is curled up. Cecil has reached her limit. She's exhausted, her dress is torn, and the reality of being a runaway is setting in. She's terrified and completely alone. Cecil slumps against a wall, her legs giving out. "I can't walk anymore," she sobs. The city that seemed so small from her window is now a vast, frightening labyrinth. She has nowhere left to go. Through her tears, she sees a figure approaching. It's Aaron. For a moment, she thinks he's there to drag her back to the obligation, to force her back into the cage she just escaped. She calls out for her brother Mihai, wishing he was there to protect her. But Aaron doesn't grab her. Instead, he gently places a bottle of water and some fresh bread in front of her. "Young Miss Cecil, please eat these for now," he says, his voice calm and comforting. He's not here as a servant. He's here as a friend. Cecil is stunned. She stares at the food, then at Aaron. Hunger and thirst finally win out, and she begins to eat greedily, her sobs turning into quiet hiccups. Aaron just sits there in silence, giving her the space she needs. As she eats, the dam finally breaks. Cecil cries about the promise Mihai made to come back, about the unfairness of it all. Aaron listens to every word, knowing that sometimes people just need to be heard before they can be healed. She asks if Mihai was strong, and Aaron honestly tells her that he never managed to beat him. It's a small comfort, but it reminds her that her brother was truly a great knight. But then, she whispers her darkest fear. Then I'll have to die too? Aaron realizes that Cecil knows exactly what's coming for her. The system has already marked her for sacrifice. He knows he has to find a way to coax her out of this despair, to give her a reason to keep living. Do you want to get out of this town with me? He asks. Cecil is shocked, her eyes wide with disbelief. Aaron explains his plan, a trip to forget all the negatives. He even shows her his small sack of savings. He's offering her a third option, not death, not the obligation, but freedom. How can we do that? She stammers. Aaron tells her that when he turns 12, he's going to become an adventurer and travel the world. He's not just talking, he's already planned his escape. He wants her to be a part of it. Cecil shakes her head, arguing that a noble's path is set in stone. The academy is her only future. But Aaron's gaze remains steady, challenging her to see that her life belongs to her, not to a title or a duty. You'd really leave everything behind? She asks, a tiny spark of hope finally flickering in her eyes. I'm talking about the right to choose how you live, Aaron says firmly, his words cutting through her despair. He leaves her with a question that echoes in the quiet alley. What kind of life do you really want to live? For the first time, Cecil stops seeing a cage and starts seeing a choice, her fingers tightening around the butterfly ornament as she begins to reflect on his words. In the quiet of the alley, Cecil Grabule stares into the distance, her mind a whirlwind of confusion. A life that I want to live? She repeats to herself. Art's question has planted a seed of rebellion in her heart, but the shadow of her brother Mihai still looms large. She holds the butterfly ornament tightly, the last physical connection to the brother she lost. A moment of clarity washes over her. The fear doesn't vanish, but her resolve hardens. Looking at the butterfly, she whispers, "Now I know." She realizes that running away isn't the answer, but neither is blindly following a path to her own destruction. She's finally ready to face her reality. Cecil looks up at Aaron, a soft smile returning to her face. "Aaron, let's go home," she says. Her legs are still weak from the long night, so she shamelessly asks him for a piggyback ride. Aaron, ever the faithful companion, simply sighs and agrees, "Yes, my lady." It's a quiet, domestic moment after the storm of her disappearance. As they walk through the quiet morning streets, Cecil leans her head against Arnt's shoulder. "Thank you," she whispers, her voice barely audible. Arnt doesn't need to say anything. He just keeps walking, carrying the weight of his friend and her newfound hope back to the safety of the manor. They arrive back at the Grabule Manor, and the relief is instantaneous. Nam Tuak Grabule and his wife are waiting at the gates, their faces lined with worry. The moment Cecil steps off Aaron's back, the Baron rushes forward, shouting her name and pulling his daughter into a desperate, crushing hug. The mansion that felt like a tomb just hours ago is suddenly full of life again. Cecil breaks down in her father's arms, apologizing for the trouble she caused. Her mother is in tears beside them, clutching Cecil's hand as if she'll never let go. Nam Tuak Grabule reassures her, promising that she has nothing to worry about anymore. The family's bond, tested by tragedy, is stronger than ever. The Baron reveals the glimmer of hope he's been holding on to. The mithril mining has finally restarted. He explains that if they can gain enough favor and recognition from the royal family through this mine, the harsh nobility obligation that claimed Mihai might be waived for Cecil. The mine isn't just about money. It's about buying back his daughter's life. Aaron listens, the pieces of the puzzle finally clicking into place. He realizes that the Baron's obsession with the mine was actually a desperate gamble to save Cecil. But he can't help the pang of guilt. If he had only started his hell mode, grind, and worked with the Knight Commander sooner, maybe they could have saved Mihai too. He vows not to let another tragedy happen. But Cecil surprises them all. Standing tall and wiping her eyes, she declares that she will go on the same road as her brother. She's no longer running. She will fulfill the nobility obligation in the name of the Grabule family. But she'll do it with a strength born of her own choice, not out of fear. "I'll never run away," she vows, her eyes burning with a new fire. The Baron and his wife can only stare in awe at the transformation in their daughter. Cecil has found her purpose, and Aaron realizes that the girl he saved in the alleyway is gone, replaced by a future leader who will carry her family's legacy on her own terms. 6 months pass. The shadow of Mihai's funeral has begun to lift, and the Grabiel family is slowly returning to normalcy. Mithril mining is in full swing, and the Baron is working tirelessly to secure their future. They remain wary of their neighbor Kalnal, who's undoubtedly bitter about losing his mining rights. Peace has returned, but it's a fragile one. In the mountain air of White Dragon Mountain, Aaron is pushing his limits. He spent the last 6 months training and climbing steep cliffs that would exhaust a seasoned mountaineer. Cecil wanted to join his hunting trip, but Aaron knew the terrain was too dangerous for her yet. He's on a solo mission to clear the path for the family's next big venture. He reaches his target, a dark, damp cave that serves as an obstacle to the mining operations. Inside, he spots his first enemy, the armor ant, a C-rank magic beast. With its thick carapace and powerful mandibles, it's a formidable foe for any normal adventurer. But for a hell mode gamer like Aaron, it's just the next thing on the menu. Aaron's scouting report is grim. There are likely 1,000 soldier ants in this cave, all spawned by a single B-rank queen ant. The narrow entrance makes aerial scouting with his birds impossible. He'll have to go in the old-fashioned way, ground-based tactical warfare. He starts calculating the best strategy to deal with the overwhelming numbers. Bear, spider, harami. Aaron calls out, summoning his small army. He's no longer just a kid with a sword. He's a commander of magic beasts. He lines up his summoned bears to act as the front line, while his spider and the aquatic harami provide support from the rear. It's an RTS game brought to life in the heart of a monster cave. Harami uses its water splash skill to dampen the battlefield, while Aaron applies buffs to his bears, increasing their ability to dodge attacks. He's reusing the same backline arrangement that worked so well against the orcs. Every move is calculated, every resource managed with the precision of a professional gamer. Aaron checks his stats. Level 11, rank 38. He has 33 bears, 6 beetles, and 4 birds at his command. He's building his own manual in a world that offers him none, determined to master his powers through trial and error. Every opponent, I will fight, he declares, stepping into the darkness of the cave. The first wave of armor ants rushes out, their mandibles snapping. Aaron doesn't flinch. Go ahead, bear, he commands. The summons clash with the magic beasts, the sound of chitin cracking and bears roaring echoing through the stone halls. The hunt is officially on. Nice! Aaron grins as he watches the battle unfold. The sheer number of ants is staggering, but he sees them for what they really are, a massive, walking pile of experience points. He plans to draw them out and finish them off one by one, slowly thinning the herd until he can reach the queen. The battle becomes a bloody grind. Aaron's forces clash with the endless tide of ants in the narrow tunnels. He's using all of his summons now, managing the chaos with a cool head. It's a brutal display of quantity versus quality, and Aaron's quality is starting to show. Aaron identifies the ants' weak spots, but he realizes his bear's low intelligence is a major handicap. They make mistakes, struggle with complex commands, and often get overwhelmed when the ants team up. He needs a better way to coordinate his troops if he wants to win this war of attrition. He uses his bird summon, Hook, to act as a battlefield coordinator. With a much higher intelligence stat, Hook can guide the bears and correct their positioning in real time. Aaron is evolving his tactics on the fly, turning his group of animals into a disciplined military unit. Keep it like this, he mutters, satisfied as his tactical effectiveness dramatically improves. With Hook guiding the front line, the bears are far more efficient, and the pile of ant corpses begins to grow. Every successful kill brings him closer to his goal. A month into the grind, and the mystery of the armor ant cave only deepens. Aaron has slaughtered over 2,000 ants, yet the horde seems as endless as ever, with the disappearing corpses suggesting the queen is birthing new ones at a terrifying rate. To stop this cycle, He realizes he needs to stop fighting at the entrance and push into the lightless heart of the hive. The Hell Mode payoff is a staggering 6 million EXP, but brute force won't solve the darkness of the tunnels or the low intelligence of his bears. Arin secures a new, intensive hunting schedule from the Baron, knowing that his next move requires a tactical upgrade, a scout that can see what he can't and guide his army through the pitch-black maze ahead. To solve the problem of the cave's darkness and the bear's low intelligence, Arin introduces his newest trump card, Horu, an owl summon with incredible speed and a mind as sharp as a razor. With the Night Eye skill, this bird is the perfect scout for the pitch-black tunnels ahead. Mutual Vision. Arin activates the link, seeing through Horu's eyes as if they were his own. He sends Horu and his bear battalion deep into the cave, finally able to navigate the treacherous depths with the precision of a high-tech drone. "Go, Horu," he commands, the hunt entering its final phase. Through Horu's eyes, the cave is revealed to be a massive, sprawling maze. Dozens of small rooms branch off into the darkness, each one potentially hiding a new wave of enemies. Arin starts mapping out the labyrinth, his gamer instincts treating it like a complex dungeon crawl. What are these small rooms? He wonders, his mind already calculating the most efficient route. The ants finally spot the intruder, and for a moment, panic strikes as the connection is severed. "Oh shit, they found us," Arin mutters, having to quickly summon his scouts again. But he doesn't back down. He leads his bear battalion forward. The time for scouting over. It's time to clean up the remaining resistance. Using Horu's Night Eye, Arin directs his bears with pinpoint accuracy, making up for their poor night vision. He discovers a horrifying sight, the larvae room, overflowing with thousands of newborn ants. He realizes that this is why the numbers never seem to go down. His gaze hardens. This time, he won't allow a single one to live. Every larva destroyed is a future threat neutralized. As the sun begins to set outside, Arin is still deep in the maze, frustrated by the endless dead ends. "Horu, go back to the cards," he says, knowing they have to return to the mansion soon. He feels like he's stuck in a tedious RPG minigame, but he's not giving up yet. He's close, he can feel it. A sudden realization hits him as he looks at his map. There it is. Deep in the heart of the mountain, Horu spots a chamber unlike any of the others. Arin's heart hammers against his ribs as the map finally reveals the Queen's chamber. Calm down, he whispers to himself. He's finally face to face with a B-rank monster, the true master of this hive. Arin analyzes his limits. He can only control 8 beasts at once with his current intelligence. The Queen is 5 kilometers away, surrounded by a personal guard of elite ants. He needs to balance his strength and change his tactics if he wants to win this boss fight. He prepares a new summon, determined to make every point of mana count. "Let's go there quickly, Horu." Arin sprints through the tunnels, his owl lead the way. He's no longer the cautious scout. He's the predator closing in on its prey. Every step is fueled by 2 months of frustration and the hope of saving the Grabiel family. The final showdown is just around the corner. He bursts into the chamber, and the sheer scale of the hive is breathtaking. Hundreds of ants guard the way, but Arin is ready. "I've been waiting for this moment for 2 months, he says, holding up his lantern. Behind him, a row of bears stands ready, their eyes glowing in the dark. The war of attrition is about to end. And then, he sees her, the queen ant, a massive B-rank monstrosity with an abdomen 3 times the size of a normal ant. Arin grins despite the danger. She's exactly as formidable as he expected. But he also notices something strange. Her head is the same size as a regular ant's. A fatal flaw, perhaps? He starts planning his attack immediately. "Take down the soldier ants, bear," Arin commands, establishing a solid defense line. He knows he can't rush the queen until her guard is thinned. The chamber erupts into a chaotic battle, chitin clashing against fur and claws. Arin stays focused on his book, managing the battlefield with cold, calculated precision. "I have to clean up the mess in the way first." One of the bears lunges forward, a blur of fur and muscle. The queen reacts, but but she's surprisingly sluggish. Aaron watches every movement, looking for the opening he needs. It's a dance of death, and Aaron is the one calling the tune. The soldier ants try to defend their mother, but Arrant bears are relentless. He notices that the queen seems to know his strategy, but she's still too slow to counter it effectively. It's okay. They still act very slowly, he mutters, his confidence growing with every second. The queen's size is her greatest weakness. Aaron spots the perfect opening. Take advantage of the enemy's slowness. Let's aim for the abdomen to attack, he shouts. The bears respond with a coordinated strike, their claws tearing into the queen's soft, vulnerable underside. The monster lets out a high-pitched scream of agony that echoes through the hive. The queen lashes out in a desperate attempt to protect herself, but the bears dodge and weave with surprising agility. It feels like they're inviting me to attack, Aaron thinks, his analytical mind never resting. He doesn't fall for any potential traps, keeping his troops focused on the killing blow. It's almost over. With a final, massive blow, the queen ant's abdomen is torn open. Green ichor sprays across the stone floor as the B-rank beast finally collapses. The remaining ants scatter in confusion, their hive mind shattered. Aaron stands amidst the carnage, the silence that follows the queen's death more deafening than the battle itself. Victory! The message flashes in his mind. Defeated the queen, ant get 45,000 experience. Aaron is stunned. He managed to take down a B-rank monster with only 20 bears. The payoff is even better than when he defeated the Orc King. He's truly mastered the art of the grind, turning a seemingly impossible task into a tactical masterclass. Aaron stands over the fallen queen, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He realizes he can't return to the city in time and will have to sleep outside again. He knows Nam Tuak Grabiel will be angry, but he has the proof he needs to justify his absence. He starts carving away at the spoils, preparing to bring back the evidence of his conquest. Reflecting on the 2-month battle, Aaron realizes why the queen was so weak. While he was killing 5,000 ants, she was busy birthing 4,000 new larvae. The strain of constant reproduction must have drained her life force, making her an easy target for his final assault. He pinches his nose against the overwhelming stench of the hive, ready to finally leave this place behind. In the ruins of the queen's chamber, Aaron finds a special magic stone, the prize of his long struggle. But when he finally returns to the mansion the next day, he's met with a wall of fury. Nam Tuak Grabiel is livid, demanding to know why he disappeared for an entire day again. Even Cecil looks worried for him. The Baron is done with excuses. "Please forgive me, sir," Aaron shouts, but he doesn't back down. He's assertive, his eyes burning with conviction. He tells the Baron he was on a mission at White Dragon Mountain to help the family, and he's finished conquering the antlair. The Baron and Cecil stare at him in disbelief. "Come up with a better lie," the Baron shouts, his face red with anger. "Proof. Please let me show you the proof," Aaron says calmly. Aaron leads them outside and gestures toward a massive object covered by a tarp. "This is the shell of the queen ant that I killed yesterday," he declares, pulling back the cover. The sheer size of the thing is staggering, its iridescent plates shimmering even in the rain. The silence that follows is absolute. "Xenoph, is this the queen's?" The Baron stammers, his anger replaced by pure, unadulterated shock. Nam Tuak Grabiel and Xenoph, Knight Commander, are frozen, unable to process the sheer scale of the iridescent shell before them. It's strange. Alien colors are unlike anything found on ordinary armor ants, leaving them staring like statues. Aaron stands by, scratching his head in confusion. He expected cheers and celebration, not this heavy, stunned silence. He truly has no idea that he's just achieved what most veterans wouldn't even dream of attempting. Xenoph, Knight Commander, finally finds his voice, admitting that in all his years of battle, he's never even seen a queen ant shell in person. He's visibly shaken, his earlier anger completely replaced by a sense of awe as he apologizes for doubting the boy. To him, the idea of a single 11-year-old destroying an entire colony is beyond logic. Meanwhile, Aren't Hell Mode gamer brain remains blissfully unaware of the legend he's just created, leaving the adults to wonder if this is even real. Even after seeing the shell, Cecil Grabiel remains suspicious, half-jokingly asking if Aaron painted it just to trick them. Xenoph, Knight Commander, is also having a hard time believing his eyes, muttering that even he would struggle with such a monster. Aaron can only sweat drop, realizing he might have overdone it with the proof. Impossible? He thinks, surprised by their reaction. Xenoph explains the gravity of the situation. He had estimated it would take a small army of thousands to even attempt to clear an armor ant colony of that size. The maze alone is a death trap for most adventurers. When asked if he really explored the whole thing and killed thousands of ants, Aaron gives a nervous yes, deciding it's better not to mention the literal army of bears he had summoned for the job. But then, Aaron pulls out his final piece of evidence: massive, shimmering mithril crystals he found in the queen's chamber. The air in the courtyard goes cold. Nam Tuak Grabiel stares at the ore, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. Is this mithril? He stammers, realizing that his family's fortunes have just changed forever. Aaron wonders if they finally believe him now. The weight of the discovery settles over the group. The Baron, Xenoph, and even the Baron's wife are speechless as they handle the precious ore. It's no longer just a tall tale from a young boy. It's a reality that will save the entire territory. Cecil watches them with a proud, knowing smile, her faith in Aaron fully vindicated. Even Xenoph has to admit, if it's Aaron, I think it's possible. The group moves into the manor's study for a formal discussion. Nam Tuak Grabiel and Xenoph sit with Aaron, their initial anger completely gone, replaced by a deep respect for the boy's accomplishments. Now show me the cave you conquered, the Baron says, and Aaron proudly unrolls his hand-drawn map of the maze right there on the table. Aaron presents a detailed map of the cave system, pointing out the locations of the mithril veins. The Baron and Xenoph realize that this isn't just a minor find. It's the discovery of the legendary fifth mine. The Baron decides to immediately dispatch the knights to secure the area. The reality of Aaron's feat is now beyond any shadow of a doubt. Nam Tuak Grabiel officially excuses Aaron for his unauthorized absence. He declares the feat remarkable and announces that Aaron will be added to the official list of those who discovered the family's most valuable mines. The boy who was once dismissed as having no talent has just become the savior of a noble house. Thank you, sir, Aaron says, his gamer heart finally feeling a sense of true accomplishment. But the biggest surprise is yet to come. The Baron explains that according to the law, Aaron is entitled to a mining right, a full 30% of the mining results from the vein he discovered. Aaron's eyes widen in shock. He didn't just save the family. He just became a very, very wealthy young man. This hell mode grind is finally starting to pay off in ways he never imagined. Chapter 1 ends with Aaron standing on the threshold of a new, legendary life. 12 years have passed since Aaron was reincarnated into this hell mode world. While the Grabiel family enjoys a hard-won peace thanks to the mithril mine, Aaron remains restless, craving the next challenge. But that peace is about to be shattered. An emissary from the royal family has arrived, and alongside him is the cunning Viscount Connor, a man whose presence never bodes well. The tension in the room is palpable as Baron Grabiel faces his unwelcome guests. Viscount Connor, with a predatory smile, claims he has come with a generous offer to solve the ongoing competition over the White Dragon Mountain. He proposes that the Grabiel and Connor clans manage the territory together, a suggestion that reeks of hidden motives. Baron Grabiel's heart sinks as he reads the document. It's not just a proposal. It's a royal decree demanding they share control of their most valuable land. Beside him, Viscount Connor watches with a triumphant glint in his eye, knowing he has backed the Baron into a corner with this unexpected royal intervention. As the royal emissary drones on about the benefits of equal division, Cecil and Aaron listen from the shadows, their faces tight with worry. Aaron sees right through the facade. This isn't a partnership, it's a blatant power grab. The news that Viscount Connor has already signed the contract leaves only one signature remaining, the Baron's. But Baron Grabiel refuses to be intimidated. He denounces the contract as a sham and demands they return to the capital to verify its authenticity. This defiance ignites Connor's fury. He lashes out, insulting the Baron's rank and warning him of the consequences of defying a decree when Mithril is at stake. The room falls into a heavy, suffocating silence. Despite the looming threat, the Baron's first priority is his family. He reassures a trembling Cecil that he will protect their home, no matter what. He immediately orders his men to bring back Knight Commander Xenov from the mountain, hoping to bolster their defenses before things escalate further. Aaron watches the scene, his sense of unease growing by the second. In the quiet of the servants' quarters, Aaron tries to piece together the political puzzle. He knows that share management is just a stepping stone for Connor to seize everything. If his master refuses, he'll be labeled as greedy. If he accepts, he loses his legacy. But Aaron's thoughts are suddenly cut short by a violent crash echoing through the manor. The manor's peace is shattered by screams for help. Cecil has been targeted. Aaron doesn't hesitate, his gamer instincts taking over as he sprints toward the source of the commotion. He finds the hallway in ruins, a broken window, and an injured servant marking the trail of the intruders. Aaron bursts into the room only to find his worst fears realized. A group of seasoned mercenaries has breached the manor, and Cecil is already in their clutches. Leading them is the menace known as Dagraha. Seeing the girl he's sworn to protect being hauled away like cargo, Aaron's blood boils with rage. With a sword in hand, Aaron launches a desperate assault. He realizes they used the cover of the meeting to bypass the outer defenses. Despite his young age, his movements are sharp and calculated, surprising the mercenaries. One of the captors clicks his tongue in annoyance, unimpressed by the kid who dares to stand in his way. The gap in experience is massive, but Aaron has his hell mode assets. He quickly consumes magic fruits and activates supplementary cards to boost his stats, pushing his young body to its absolute limit. The lead kidnapper, however, seems to be enjoying the struggle, his combat skills far outstripping anything Aaron has faced before. The mercenary taunts him, treating the life-or-death battle like child's play. Aaron, his stamina rapidly depleting, is forced to use his precious leaves of life just to stay on his feet. He knows he's outclassed, but in his mind, retreat is not an option as long as Cecil is in danger. While Aaron fights a losing battle, the news finally reaches Baron Grabiel. The realization that his daughter has been snatched from under his own roof leaves him paralyzed with shock and terror. His defiance earlier today has brought a nightmare directly to his doorstep. The battle reaches a tipping point. With a final devastating blow that sends Aaron crashing back, the leader signals his men to retreat. They vanish through the shattered window, taking the unconscious Cecil with them. Aaron can only watch in agony as his strength fails him at the most critical moment. As the manor descends into chaos, Aaron feels a strange numbness spreading through his body. Poison. He tries to cry out to warn the guards, but his vision blurs and his strength evaporates. He falls into darkness, the sounds of the frantic search fading away as he is taken alongside Cecil. When Aaron finally regains consciousness, the world is cold and dark. He's bound tightly, his body aching from the battle and the lingering effects of the toxin. The silence around him is heavy, punctuated only by the distant, rhythmic creaking of a vessel in motion. Relief washes over him when he spots Cecil nearby. She's unconscious but alive. Aaron berates himself for being impulsive, but he quickly shifts back into his gamer mindset. He needs information, and he needs it fast. His thoughts are interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. The captors are returning. Aaron realizes his captors have made a fatal mistake. They left the summoner's greatest tool untouched. He silently calls upon Chiapai, his avian summon, and uses the Unify skill to see through its eyes. He discovers they are in a warehouse-like hold, and he quickly identifies the 3 mercenaries from the manor sitting nearby. the real threat emerges. Dagraha, the one-star scout and leader of the kidnappers, enters the hold. He's cold, professional, and radiating a murderous intent far beyond his subordinates. When he sees Aaron, he questions why a mere servant boy was brought along, unaware of the threat the black-haired kid truly poses. Dagraha's gaze is like ice, silencing his men instantly. He has no patience for their incompetence or their greed. To him, this isn't just a kidnapping. It's a mission that must be executed with absolute precision. Anyone who deviates from his orders will face his wrath, and his mercy is a very rare thing. With a chilling nonchalance, Dagraha orders Aaron's execution just to save space. He leaves the room with a heavy slam of the door, leaving Aaron to face his end. Aaron watches him go, his heart racing. He knows Dagraha is in a different league entirely, a monster whose power dwarfs everyone else in the room. The mercenaries begin to boast, their talk revealing the grim reality of the world. Dagraha is a veteran of a brutal war, a man whose skills were forged in blood. They speak of Knight Commander Xenoph as a peer, someone only Dagraha could possibly challenge. It's clear that these men aren't just common thugs. They are part of something much larger and more dangerous. Listening to their cruel laughter, Aaron pieced together the bits of information. There's a war raging somewhere, and these men are deserters or mercenaries profiting from the chaos. He realizes that waiting for rescue is a fool's errand. In this hell mode, survival is a solo game. He prepares to make his move, his grimoire already materializing in his mind. Aaron quickly catalogs his meager gear: 3 iron balls and a single short sword. One shot is all he'll get. Seizing the moment when a guard steps out, he releases Chayapai to scout the airship's maze-like corridors. Every second counts as he begins his silent reconnaissance to find a way out of this flying cage. The report from Chayapai is a staggering blow to his hopes. Peering through the bird's eyes, Aaron sees no land, only an endless, shifting expanse stretching to the horizon. They've been taken far beyond the Grabial borders, isolated on a vessel soaring through the middle of nowhere. The mission just shifted from a simple jailbreak to a desperate fight for survival in the sky. Chayapai continues its silent reconnaissance. The magic airship is massive, a flying fortress of metal and wood. Outside the windows, the world has plunged into darkness, the stars shining brightly over a sea of clouds. A sudden announcement crackles through the ship's speakers. "Thank you for trusting Bahona's service," signaling that this ship belongs to a commercial transport guild used by the kidnappers. The announcement continues, warning passengers about unstable airflow and tremors. Aaron's eyes go wide. The realization that they are high in the sky, far from any land, makes the situation far more dire than he anticipated. Escape isn't just about breaking ties. It's about survival in the clouds. Through the bird's eyes, the full scale of the magic airship is revealed. It glides majestically through the moonlight, a silent predator in the night sky. For a regular 12-year-old, this would be a death trap, but for a gamer like Aaron, it's just a dungeon with a very long drop. Chayapai flies higher, confirming they are well above the cloud layer. There's truly no easy way down. Moving back inside, the bird searches for Dagraha, but finds a bustling area instead. The ship's public corridor is filled with people, making a stealthy rescue even more complicated. The bird finds its target. In a private cabin, Viscount Connor is celebrating with the royal messenger. They clink glasses, their conversation revealing a deeper conspiracy involving a deputy minister and the academy side. The contract that Connor tried to force on Baron Grabiel was just the beginning of a larger political play. Connor's laughter is vile. He gloats about putting lone nobles in their place, his ego inflated by the success of his scheme. He finds genuine amusement in the memory of the Baron's bitter face, completely dismissive of the lives he's ruining for a few more mithril mining rights. The Viscount sits back, utterly confident. He knows he holds all the cards as long as Cecil is his hostage. He plans to use her as a permanent lever against the Baron, banking on the fact that since the Grabiels just lost their eldest son, Cecil is now their only weakness. The conversation takes a darker turn. Connor's eyes gleam with malice as he suggests sending a part of Cecil's hand back to the Baron if he continues to be stubborn. Through Chiapai's connection, Arin hears everything. His jaw clenches, his eyes burning with a cold, murderous fury. Bastard! The villains continue to toast to their dirty plan funded by greed. Meanwhile, Arin's focus shifts back to his own body in the hold. He's tied up, but his mind is racing. He knows the Baron is in an impossible position. The only way to save the family is to rescue Cecil right here, right now. Back in the dark hold, Cecil finally wakes up. Her eyes are wide with terror as she finds herself bound and gagged. She sees Arin lying next to her, still seemingly unconscious, and lets out a muffled, desperate cry for help. Desperate to wake him, Cecil kicks Arin's leg. He groans, stirring as the eye-patch mercenary mocks them. The man informs them they're nearing Calnal City, the heart of the Viscount's power. If they reach the city, any hope of rescue will vanish. The mercenary's threats become more physical, his hand reaching for Cecil as he scolds her for being stubborn. Arin's eyes snap open. He realizes he can't wait for a perfect moment any longer. The time for observation is over. It's time to act. Arin's mental status screen flickers to life. Level 41. Summoner. He has a vast arsenal of cards gathered through his hell mode grinding. He scans his deck. Insects, beasts, birds, even a knight. Each card represents thousands of hours of effort, and today, they will be the key to his survival. Let's strike back. Arin's grimoire pulses with light. He hasn't just been waiting, he's been preparing a plan to protect his holder. With a silent command, he triggers his first summon. Come out, Ajiha. A massive, glowing butterfly erupts from the book. The mercenaries stumble back in shock, their eyes wide as they realize the helpless kid is a high-level magic beast summoner. Ajiha's wings beat slowly, scattering shimmering dust into the air. Ajiha's scales are more than just pretty. They are a potent paralytic. The shimmering dust settles on the room, and one of the mercenaries freezes mid-attack. Arin knows his summons have limits, but in a small room, even one paralyzed enemy changes the odds. Taking advantage of the chaos, Arin uses his mana to dissolve his bonds. The rope snaps, falling away as the eye-patch mercenary watches in disbelief. Disappear, he stammers, unable to track Arin's sudden burst of speed as he moves to protect Cecil. Arin stands tall, the ropes at his feet and his eyes locked on his enemies. The aura of a master gamer radiates from him. Watch me strike back, he declares, his presence completely transformed from a servant boy to a formidable warrior. Arin doesn't stop with one summon. He flips another card. Bear, it's time to bite and scratch. A massive grizzly bear manifests in the hold, its roar shaking the very walls of the ship. The mercenaries' confidence evaporates instantly as they face another powerful magic beast. The grizzly lunges at the leader, forcing him on the defensive. Arin doesn't just watch. He dives into the fray himself. He targets the subordinate who is already weakened, taking him down with a swift, calculated strike. Second guy defeated, Arin stands ready for the next round. He knows the allies of these men will be here soon, and he needs to clear the room before they are overwhelmed. The eye-patch mercenary draws his blade, his expression turning from mockery to genuine fear. What did you do? The mercenary's fear turns into desperation. He snarls, declaring he'll kill Arin this time. Cecil watches from the floor, her gag still on, her eyes filled with a mix of shock and hope as she sees the servant boy she knew standing his ground against a seasoned killer. Use your shield, Braun. Arin summons his strongest tank, a fully armored knight. Braun appears instantly, his massive shield clanging against the mercenary's sword, completely neutralizing the attack. The man can only stare in mute shock at the sheer number of summons Arin is fielding. Art's mind works like a well-oiled machine, calculating mana costs and cooldowns with lethal precision. He knows Braun and Grizzly can hold the line, but to secure their escape, he needs a complete tactical lockdown. He reaches into his deck for 3 more cards. Chew the Spider, Harami the Orca, and a bug-type summon, and shouts the order to engage. In a burst of mana, Harami the Orca manifests, its water scales providing a shimmering layer of protection to the armored brawn. As the room begins to fill with his creations, Aaron positions himself protectively in front of Cecil, his eyes locked on the remaining mercenary. He's ready to turn this cramped hold into a nightmare for his captors. Aaron isn't finished. He summons his spider, Chew, to ensnare the guard while another bug-type beast weakens him from the shadows. The eye-patch mercenary can only gasp in shock as the small room becomes a literal spider's web of magic, his movements restricted by the sticky silk. The mercenary struggles to comprehend what's happening. Manipulating magic beasts like this is a talent unheard of. Taking advantage of his confusion, Aaron leaps from Braun's shield and drives a dagger toward the man's neck. However, the mercenary's armor is too thick, and the blade fails to bite deep. Knowing he can't win with a single blow, Aaron shifts his strategy to a war of attrition. He pushes his summons to wear the man out until, finally, the mercenary collapses in exhaustion. Aaron stands panting, his fist clenched in triumph, but Cecil remains bound and terrified in the corner. A sudden announcement from the ship's loudspeaker shatters the moment. They have entered Council City. Aaron's heart drops. They're in the heart of enemy territory. Realizing they'll be surrounded as soon as they land, he quickly desummons his beast to conserve mana, his mind racing for a way out. Aaron rushes to untie Cecil, promising her that they'll escape together. But just as the ropes fall away, a chilling voice echoes from the doorway. It's Dagraha, the one-star assassin, and he looks far more interested in Aaron's unique talent than he is in his failed subordinates. Aaron freezes, his gamer instincts screaming that this is a boss fight he isn't ready for. Dagraha moves with a speed that defies the eye. Before Aaron can even command his grimoire, he's blasted across the room by a devastating kick. He hits the wall hard, blood spraying from his mouth as the world spins. The raw power of a true professional is terrifying. Gasping for air, Aaron tries to process what just happened. Dagraha is too fast. It's like he's teleporting. Cecil can only watch in horror, her muffled cries filling the air as she sees her protector battered and broken on the floor. The mercenaries Aaron defeated earlier lie forgotten, insignificant compared to the monster standing before them. Dagraha mocks him, unimpressed by a kid who hasn't even mastered basic combat skills. Aaron realizes that in a close-quarters fight, he's already dead. He needs to create distance and use his head, but his body is screaming in pain. Even his hell mode stats aren't enough to close this gap. Desperate, Aaron activates a Tree of Life recovery item, healing 10,000 HP in a burst of light. Dagraha dismisses it as a useless struggle, unaware that Aaron is just buying time. With Cecil's safety as his only motivation, Aaron forces himself back into a combat stance. Aaron plays his trump card, Chiapai's fake voice skill. The bird perfectly imitates the authoritative voice of Viscount Connor, ordering Dagraha to bring Cecil to a specific location immediately. The deception works. Dagraha freezes, confused by the sudden order from a master he thought was elsewhere. Taking the opening, Aaron fires a spray of spider silk to slow Dagraha down. He knows it won't hold him long, but it's the few seconds he needs to grab Cecil and make a break for it. He's betting everything on this one desperate gamble. Aaron scoops up Cecil and sprints for the stairs, his mind calculating every second. He feels Dagraha ripping through the silk behind him with terrifying ease. He knows his knight, Braun, is already defeated and his mana is plummeting. They have moments before they're caught again. They reach the airship's window, but the sight below is paralyzing. The ship is 100 meters above the ground, gliding over the lights of Council City. Aaron sees a landing area far below, but from this height, it might as well be the surface of the moon. Still, staying on the ship means certain death. Young miss, get ready to jump. Aaron yells over the wind. Cecil can only stare in disbelief as he begins feverishly stacking defense buffs on them both. Using every bug card he has, he pushes their endurance stats to the absolute limit. Hoping against hope that Hell Mode logic applies to falling damage. He assures Cecil that their stats are high enough to survive, then pulls her tight against his chest. 1, 2, 3, jump! With a roar of defiance, they leap from the airship window, plunging into the dark, cold night. For a moment, they are weightless, the massive vessel shrinking above them as they fall toward the city. They tumble through the sky, the wind whipping around them as Cecil's terrified screams are lost in the night. The ground rushes up to meet them with lethal speed. In this Hell Mode world, Auron is betting their lives on a math equation and the durability of his summon cards. Amazingly, they survive. Auron is already on his feet, carrying Cecil through the narrow alleys of Calnal City at full speed. He summons a flock of owls, his Horu, to scout the path to the city gate. Meanwhile, back at the manor, Dagraha informs a stunned Viscount Connor that the kids jumped, convinced that no one could survive a 100-meter fall. Viscount Connor is furious, demanding they find the bodies to use for negotiation. Dagraha is certain they're dead, but the Viscount knows Cecil is too vital to his plan to lose. If he had any idea she was actually alive and running through his city, he'd unleash his entire army to hunt her down. Auron and Cecil reach the city's outer gate. With a poker face that would impress any pro gamer, Auron shows a Grabial family crest and claims they are leaving on the young Mrs. orders. The guard is baffled. 2 children alone at night, without a single bodyguard? But Auron's confidence is enough to sow doubt. Once they're safely beyond the walls, Auron's tension finally breaks into a relieved grin. How lucky. We're out. Cecil can only shake her head, realizing that the servant boy is a far better liar than she ever imagined. Auron consults his mental map, plotting a course north toward the border gate between their territories. As the forest swallows them up, Auron activates his night vision skill. He tells Cecil not to worry, though she's clearly unsettled by the absolute darkness and the uncertain days ahead. To her, it's a terrifying wilderness. To him, it's just another area to navigate with the right buffs active. They find a secluded spot to rest for the night. Auron suggests they take care of their basic needs and get some sleep. Cecil is visibly flustered by the intimacy of the situation, but the presence of Auron's loyal owl summon, Horu, provides a strange kind of comfort in the wild. Cecil is stunned when Auron pulls out sandwiches and bottles of water from seemingly nowhere. "Where did you get those from?" she demands, her noble sensibilities clashing with his gamer inventory logic. They eat in silence by the soft light of a lantern, the weight of their ordeal finally beginning to settle. Cecil quietly asks if he can truly talk to magic beasts. In the flickering light of the lantern, Auron pets his Horu, explaining that his summoned beasts are incredibly docile and loyal. Cecil looks at the bird with wonder, finally beginning to understand the secret life Auron has led. She realizes that the Hell Mode he speaks of is a reality he's been preparing for long before this night. Auron asks if his powers frighten her. Cecil pauses, then smiles softly. "We've known each other for 4 years. Nothing you do could truly surprise me anymore." A new bond of trust forms, but Auron's eyes remain sharp and distant. Even in this moment of quiet, he is already using his connection with his bird to monitor the city they just escaped, dreading the moment the hunt begins anew. Through the eyes of his bird summon, Auron watches Dagraha speak with the city guards. The assassin knows they are still alive and hasn't wasted a second. He's already heading outside the city walls, moving with a predatory focus toward the very forest where Auron and Cecil are hiding. The hunt hasn't ended. It's just entered a more dangerous phase. Auron doesn't hesitate. He tells Cecil they have to move immediately. When she asks how he knows they're being followed, he points to his scout bird. Suspecting Dagraha has a high-level tracking skill, Auron burns through 44 bug cards and several bird cards to nearly double his speed. He knows they have to outrun a professional killer, and in this game, speed is life. With Cecil on his back, Auron sprints into the dense forest, but he isn't just running blindly. He moves in a deliberate, zigzag pattern, testing the waters. He needs to understand exactly how Dagraha tracks his prey before he can hope to lose him for good. Cecil can only hold on tight, her mind reeling at the speed of the boy she thought was just a servant. The observation pays off. Dagraha is a one-star scout with a reconnaissance talent, following their exact footsteps with surgical precision. To counter this, Arin shifts his weight and begins running along the tree trunks, avoiding the soft earth entirely. It's a grueling, high-stakes game of hide-and-seek where every misplaced step could lead Dagraha right to them. Arin catches his breath high in the canopy, thinking he's finally given the assassin the slip. Cecil is still shaken, asking if he plans to fight the man who nearly killed them on the airship. Arin is realistic. The odds of winning a direct confrontation are far too low. He looks toward the distant White Dragon Mountain, his mind already plotting a safer route home. Using his grimoire, Arin summons Braun to act as a platform, helping them navigate the difficult mountain terrain with Cecil still on his back. His mastery over his summons leaves Cecil in awe. "Gee, great," she whispers, her fear slowly turning into genuine admiration for the boy who seems to have an answer for every impossible situation. They manage to put several kilometers between themselves and the city, and as night falls, the exhaustion finally catches up. Arin decides they'll camp in the woods, urging Cecil to take every chance she can to rest. Despite the looming threat, he maintains a calm exterior, promising her they'll be safe as he prepares for a few hours of much-needed sleep. In the quiet of the night, Cecil asks the question that's been on her mind. Why has he hidden such incredible talent for so long? Arin's answer is simple and grim. Revealing such power in a world of nobles is a death sentence. He thinks back to the terrifying Madagalshu from 3 years ago, a memory that still haunts him. He knows that in hell mode, being caught means more than just a game over. Dawn breaks over the mountains, but there's no time to enjoy the view. Dagraha is still out there, tirelessly closing the gap. Arin wakes Cecil with a start, realizing the assassin has already found the faint marks he left on the tree trunks. The hunter is relentless, and the distance Arin fought so hard for is rapidly vanishing. Dagraha is indeed close, his frustration evident as he finds another of Arin's clever diversions. He begins to realize the brat is more than just lucky. Arin understands his tracking skills and is actively countering them. The game of cat and mouse intensifies as Arin begins running in a confusing spiral pattern to muddy his trail once more. Dagraha's face contorts with rage. "You can't run away from me," he snarls to the empty woods. He's no longer just a mercenary on a mission. It's personal now. Meanwhile, Arin continues to push his body to the limit, carrying Cecil through the underbrush, his mind entirely focused on reaching the safety of the border. Finally, on the second morning after their escape, the northern border gate of the Dragon Mountains comes into view. The sight of the massive stone walls is a beacon of hope. The guards recognize Cecil instantly, their shock at seeing the young miss safe and sound spreading through the garrison like wildfire. The garrison commander offers them immediate rest and a carriage back to the manor, but Arin remains strangely on guard. While Cecil is relieved to be back among allies, Arin feels a familiar prickle on the back of his neck. He holds his family crest tight, his eyes darting around the courtyard as if expecting an attack at any moment. To the guard's confusion, Arin refuses the carriage, claiming he can run faster than any horse. He knows they aren't safe yet. As they leave the gate, Cecil notices his tension and asks what's wrong. Arin's voice is low. His summoned bird has lost sight of Dagraha. The assassin has either vanished or, worse, he's aware he's being watched. Arin explains that staying with the Night Order would only put them in danger. Dagraha was hired specifically to deal with warriors of that caliber, and a few border guards wouldn't stand a chance. He knows their only real hope is to keep moving and reach the heart of Grabial territory before the assassin catches up. Cecil's guilt begins to surface, and she asks if Arin would be safer if he just left her behind. Arin doesn't even consider it. He knows the situation is far too much for a 12-year-old girl to bear, and he's driven by more than just duty. He carries a weight on his shoulders that goes back to a promise he made long ago. The memory of young Master Mihai flashes in Arin's mind. He made a vow to protect Cecil at all costs, and it's a promise he intends to keep, even if it kills him. "So let's get home together," he says firmly. His resolve is hard as the mithril in their minds. It's no longer about the game. It's about the family he's chosen to protect. Cecil's eyes well with tears as the weight of his words sinks in. A simple thank you is all she can manage, her heart swelling with gratitude for the boy carrying her through the wild. They continue their journey, a small island of two in a sea of danger, moving ever closer to home. Arin summons a fresh pair of birds to scout the area, his mana reserves slowly depleting. He tells himself he has to keep his composure, to be the cool protector Cecil needs right now. But beneath the calm surface, the gears of a master gamer are turning, constantly recalculating their chances of survival. By the morning of the third day, the exhaustion is visible on both of them. Cecil asks if they'll finally reach home by tomorrow, her voice small and hopeful. They've been running for days, surviving on grit and Arin-summoned supplies, but the finish line is finally within reach. Or so they think. In the shadows of the forest, a familiar face watches from the trees. Dagraha is there, a cruel grin spreading across his face as he observes his prey. He hasn't just been following, he's been waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and his patience is about to pay off. The hunter has finally cornered his quarry. Arin forces Cecil to eat some grass of life to restore her stamina, urging her to hold on for just one more day. He's dazed by fatigue himself, but his instincts suddenly scream a warning. He stops dead in his tracks, his eyes wide with a realization that chills him to the bone. Erupting from the underbrush is a nightmare from Arin's past, Madagalshu. The B-rank monster looks even more terrifying than before, and it recognizes Arin instantly. Its single remaining eye burns with a vengeful glee as it prepares to finish the fight that started 3 years ago. They aren't just being hunted by an assassin. They've walked right into the territory of a vengeful beast. Arin quickly assesses the dire situation. It's suicidal to be caught between a B-rank monster and a professional assassin. He tells Cecil he has to take down Madagalshu first, hoping to clear one threat before Dagraha makes his move. Cecil, though terrified, trusts him completely. She reminds him that he defeated the Queen Ant, and she believes he can do it again. The battle is joined. Arin prepares his summons, knowing this will be the fight of his life. He has to balance his dwindling mana and protect Cecil while dealing with a monster that wants nothing more than to tear him apart. It's a literal hell mode scenario, and for Arin, the game has never been more real. Arin isn't intimidated by the B-rank beast. He knows the clock is ticking. Dagraha is closing in. His strategy is simple: overwhelm the monster with sheer numbers. He summons an entire army of grizzly bears, surrounding Madagalshu in a sea of fur and claws. It's a classic hell mode tactic, using a swarm to pin down a superior foe. Madagalshu lets out a deafening roar and unleashes a powerful spin attack, sending the grizzly bears flying in every direction. The beast's physical strength is immense, easily clearing the area around it. But Arin isn't discouraged. He expected his front line to take a beating. This is just the opening move. The monster laughs, a chilling, guttural sound, as it smashes another summon into dust. Arin quickly recalculates. He can't afford to waste his army on mindless charges. He calls upon Braun, his loyal knight, to provide a more stable defense, his eyes never leaving the monster as it prepares for another devastating strike. Besiege Madagalshu, Arin commands. Multiple Brauns appear, their shields forming a defensive perimeter that locks the monster in place. It's a coordinated tactical maneuver, designed to limit the beast's movement and create an opening for a counterattack. Madagalshu snarls, finding itself trapped in a cage of steel and magic. Arin watches intensely, wondering if this combined force is enough to bring down a B-rank superior monster. He orders his bears to exploit the opening, and one particularly brave grizzly manages to sink its teeth deep into the back of Madagalshu's neck. The monster thrashes in pain, its roar turning into a scream of agony. The swarm attack intensifies. Multiple bears latch onto the beast, biting and clawing with everything they have. The forest is filled with the sounds of a brutal, primitive struggle as the magic beasts slowly wear down the Titan. Madagalshu is bleeding from a dozen wounds, its superior rank failing it in the face of Arin's relentless strategy. Madagalshu becomes wary, its single eye darting around as it looked for the source of the persistent damage. Arin doesn't give it a moment's rest, throwing an iron ball with pinpoint accuracy to keep the monster off balance. He knows the beast remembers their last encounter, and he intends to make this one even more memorable. Cecil watches the carnage from the sidelines, her eyes wide with shock. She's never seen anything like this, a battle of magical beasts that defies common sense. "So this is how Arin fights," she whispers. Arin's voice cuts through the chaos, a fierce promise to the monster. Even if it manages to beat him, he will never let it lay a finger on Cecil. He vows to take its remaining eyes. Arin's confidence grows. He's defeated the Ogre King, so a B-rank Madagalshu shouldn't be an impossible hurdle. But the monster has one more trick up its sleeve. It suddenly lunges forward with a burst of speed that Arin didn't account for. His eyes widen in shock as he sees a change in his grimoire. The battle is far from over. "Bron, shield!" Arin screams, but it's too late. Madagalshu smashes through the defensive line with a single, titanic blow. The shields shatter like glass, and Arin can only watch in horror as the monster's massive fist closes the distance. "Are you kidding me?" he gasps, realizing he's completely exposed. In a flash of movement, Madagalshu's hand wraps around Arin, snatching him from the ground like a doll. He's crushed by the beast's incredible grip, the air leaving his lungs in a painful gasp. Cecil's terrified scream echoes through the woods, her heart stopping as she sees her protector caught in the monster's lethal grasp. Despite the bone-crushing pressure, Arin tells Cecil to stay away. Madagalshu mocks him, savoring the feeling of slowly crushing the life out of the boy who once blinded it. But Arin isn't done. He forces a grass of life into his mouth, restoring his stamina and keeping his HP from dropping to zero. It's a war of attrition, and he has more than enough supplies to last. Madagalshu holds him up, its mouth opening wide for a final lethal bite. The monster savors its victory, unaware that it has just invited its own destruction. Arin watches the rows of jagged teeth approaching, his eyes cold and focused even in the face of death. This is the moment he's been waiting for. The beast snaps its jaws shut, but instead of the sound of breaking bone, there's a spray of hot, dark blood. Cecil covers her mouth in horror, convinced it's the end. But the blood isn't Arin's, it's the monster's. Within the beast's own mouth, Arin has found the ultimate opening. Arin stabs his dagger upward, driving it through the roof of the monster's mouth and deep into its brain. "Are you the type to eat grilled fish from the tail?" he taunts, his voice muffled by the gore. While caught, he switched his card deck to 48 D-stone cards, massively boosting his defense and endurance to survive the initial bite. The hunter has become the lethal parasite. Madagalshu thrashes in a terminal frenzy, but Arin doesn't let go, twisting the blade even deeper into its skull. He mocks the beast's inability to finish him off sooner. With his stats boosted to a staggering 1040 strength and 570 endurance, the monster's mouth is no longer a trap, it's a coffin. "Now go to hell!" he roars, dealing the final, lethal blow. Arin climbs out of the monster's mouth, covered in its blood. He explains to the dying beast that the status screen never lies. By analyzing its attacks on his bronze, he deduced its strength was less than 2,000, meaning he could survive its grip if he boosted his defense high enough. He consumes another grass of life to recover from the brutal encounter. The gamer logic remains flawless. Arin mentions he prepared 100 tons of recovery items in case he had to fight a death battle with Dagraha. Madagalshu was just a test of his endurance. He feels a strange sense of nostalgia, remembering the many nights spent grinding against powerful bosses in his past life. This hell mode world is just a much larger, more dangerous version of the games he loved. With one last effort, Aaron unleashes a final burst of energy from within the monster's skull. A flash of lightning erupts through the beast's head, sealing its fate. The titan that has terrorized the forest for years is finally silenced by the ingenuity and ruthlessness of a 12-year-old summoner. Madagalshu lets out one last, haunting scream before its massive body finally goes limp. It crashes to the forest floor with a sound that shakes the earth. The air is suddenly still, the silence heavy after the frantic violence of the battle. Aaron stands atop the fallen titan, a blood-soaked victor. A victory notification appears in Aaron's mind. Defeated 1 MFDAGLSHU. Get 82,000 experience. Revenge, 3 years in the making, is finally complete. Aaron stands panting, his clothes in tatters, but a triumphant grin on his face. He's proven once again that in this world, knowledge and preparation are the ultimate weapons. Cecil runs to him, her voice trembling as she asks if he's okay. Aaron reassures her with a tired smile, mentioning he has plenty of healing potions left. But seeing him alive and safe is too much for the young noble girl. The relief is overwhelming, and the tears she's been holding back finally start to fall. She collapses into a fit of sobbing, admitting how terrified she was that he was dead. Aaron apologizes for scaring her, his heart softening at the sight of her genuine distress. He survived the monster, but he knows the most dangerous part of their journey is still to come. He can feel another presence approaching. Their reunion is cut short by the sound of clapping from the shadows. Dagraha has finally caught up, and he's clearly impressed by the carnage. But his praise is hollow. His eyes are burning with a murderous fury. "You brat," he snarls, pointing a finger at Aaron. "I will kill you right here." The final boss of their escape has arrived, and he's not interested in games. Dagraha stands before them, his presence radiating an aura of lethal intent that dwarfs the dead Madagalshu. He's furious that a mere brat has managed to outsmart and outlast him for so long. Aaron pushes Cecil behind him, his eyes locking with the assassins. The true battle for their lives is about to begin. Dagraha stands before the fallen Madagalshu, a twisted look of respect on his face. He admits he didn't expect a brat like Aaron to bring down such a monster. Aaron knows their desperate run is finally over. He's out of iron balls, his only sword is still embedded in the beast's skull, and he knows none of his current summons can match Dagraha's speed. He's down to his last few choices, and none of them look good. The assassin sneers at Aaron's protective stance, mocking the loyal servant for being willing to die for his noble master. Aaron urges Cecil to step back, his voice firm despite his injuries. He's determined to fight to the bitter end. This selfless defiance only fuels Dagraha's rage. "That's what I hate the most," he roars, unleashing a brutal kick that sends Aaron tumbling across the forest floor like a broken toy. Aaron gasps for air, coughing up blood as he tries to process the attack. Dagraha was so fast, he didn't even see him move. As the world spins, Aaron realizes his mana is dangerously low. Dagraha draws his blade, mocking the boy for his silent grimoire. "So, not calling out your animals anymore?" he taunts, savoring the sight of his prey, finally cornered and defenseless. Cecil can only watch in silent horror, her protector broken at the assassin's feet. Dagraha stands over the fallen boy, the tip of his rapier inches from Aaron's head. "Time's up, kid," he says coldly, his eyes devoid of mercy. Cecil's silent plea is lost in the heavy air. But just as the final blow is about to fall, the earth itself seems to shatter. A massive, deafening explosion erupts between them, a sudden twist of fate that leaves everyone reeling. Who, or what, has intervened at the very last second? The mystery remains as Chapter 2 comes to an explosive end. Desperate to save Aaron, Cecil Grabiel unleashes a fireball. Her small hand trembles as the magical flame erupts, a final attempt to protect the boy who has carried her this far. But Dagraha is a professional. With a casual swipe of his rapier, he deflects the attack and knocks Cecil aside. Aaron watches in horror, his vision blurring from exhaustion as the villain looms over them. Cecil lies wounded, her noble dress stained with dirt. Dagraha looks down at them with cold contempt, taunting Arin about his inability to do anything despite his orders not to kill. Arin's gaze sharpens, his mind still working through the pain. Dagraha continues his mockery, calling Arin a failure who escaped the battlefield after only a year. Blood drips from Arin's mouth as he stares back, his voice a low growl of defiance. "Such an asshole," he spits out. "Go to hell." Dagraha snarls, delivering a brutal kick that sends Arin tumbling. The force of the blow is immense, threatening to break the boy's resolve. The villain stands over him, frustrated by Arin's persistence. He thinks Arin is out of magic, but he doesn't realize who he's dealing with. Arin isn't just a child. He's a gamer in hell mode, and he's still calculating his survival. As he struggles, Arin analyzes the skill system of this world. There are 3 types: those requiring magic power, those formed through training from childhood like his own sword skills, and extra skills that he lacks. Memories of his past life as a gamer flash before his eyes. The system windows appear in his mind. In normal and hard modes, people get extra skills from birth or gacha, but in hell mode, it's only inherent talent. Arin realizes he has the rare, high-potential skill of a summoner, and he's already at level 41. He looks at Dagraha again, seeing the villain's stats. A 1-star scout with tracking. Even though Dagraha is strong, his rarity is low. Arin manages to block the neck sword combo, his body screaming in pain as he takes blow after blow. A bloody smile crosses Arin's face. If he can survive this, as an 8-star summoner in hell mode, how much stronger could he become? The gamer within him finds a strange thrill in this life-or-death struggle. Dagraha's irritation peaks. He strikes again, sending Arin flying back towards Cecil. The villain's rapier is swift and deadly, intended to end this disgusting brat once and for all. Dagraha wonders how many healing charms Arin is hiding. In reality, Arin is consuming Grass of Life, a basic item that restores 1,000 stamina. He's not exhausted yet, and he's certainly not ready to run. Arin stares up, his voice cold. You received a death sentence the moment you hit Cecil. Suddenly, Dagraha's attention is drawn to a bird circling in the sky. He senses a presence approaching through the trees. Through the forest, a man in heavy knight armor is charging toward them, a bird perched on his shoulder. He's received Arin's distress signal and is desperate to arrive before it's too late. Dagraha realizes the trick. Arin had sent birds back to the mansion the moment they arrived at the gate, using himself as bait to buy time. It's too late to realize, Arin whispers, his plan finally coming to fruition. Despite the pain and the numerous cuts from the rapier, Arin is triumphant. The backup has arrived. He's willing to use every trick in his gamer's arsenal to defeat a superior enemy. "Let's beat him up," he shouts. The 2 men face off. The newcomer's presence is overwhelming, his heavy sword a sharp contrast to Dagraha's rapier. Dagraha's arrogance falters as he recognizes the threat. "So you are Xenoph?" he asks, testing the waters. Xenoph glances at the battered Arin and the unconscious Cecil. Arin gives a slight nod, confirming they are safe for now. The Knight Commander's expression hardens into one of pure, righteous fury. "I will cut you into pieces in the name of the Knight Commander," Xenoph declares, drawing his massive blade. He marches forward, his armor clanking with every heavy step. Dagraha sneers, calling him a bastard. Dagraha mocks Xenoph's life of peace in the countryside, his voice filled with resentment. Xenoph remains silent, his eyes fixed on his target. The tension between the 2 professional killers is electric. Dagraha's aura shifts, turning dark and menacing. He talks about his joy in trampling on bugs like nobles. Arin watches closely, noticing that the villain is finally beginning to use his skills in earnest. Xenoph lectures the villain about the true nature of a battlefield, his voice calm despite the impending clash. Arin is confused by the tactical nuances being discussed, realizing he still has much to learn about this world's combat. Xenoph stands ready, his blade glowing with an inner light. He understands the type of man he's fighting, a survivor who has lost everything and turned into a monster. It's time to end this. The clash begins. Dagraha lunges with viper-like speed, screaming that only fools sacrifice themselves for nothing. But Xenoph, Knight Commander, barely moves, his deliberate posture radiating a power that Dagraha's hatred can't reach. Dagraha's voice cracks as he rants about his dead comrades, blaming the fools in high places for their suffering. He's no longer just a scout. He's a vessel of pure spite, preparing to unleash his most murderous strike yet. Dagraha lunges forward with murderous intent, screaming "Die! You parasites!" at Xenoph, Knight Commander. He pours all his hatred for nobles into this final, desperate strike. The rapier pierces straight through Xenoph, Knight Commander's armor, but he doesn't even flinch. Dagraha is paralyzed with shock as he realizes his attack did nothing. This is the difference between a mere scout and a true swordsman of Xenoph's caliber. Xenoph, Knight Commander, stares back with eyes that have seen far more tragedy than Dagraha could imagine. When Dagraha rants about the comrades he lost, Xenoph simply counters by asking if he thinks he's the only one who has suffered in this world. "Don't run away from our destiny," Xenoph, Knight Commander, declares sternly. He speaks of a war that gambles on everyone's life, showing the resolve of a man who has carried the weight of his fallen brothers for years. With a sudden burst of power, Xenoph, Knight Commander, unleashes his skill, Aura Blade. A massive shockwave of energy tears through the air, completely overwhelming Dagraha in a single decisive stroke. The forest falls silent as the dust settles. Dagraha lies defeated on the ground, his reign of terror finally over. In the distance, Arin and Cecil Grabiel watch the aftermath, stunned by the sheer power they just witnessed. "That's awesome," Arin whispers, his gamer's instinct marveling at the high-level combat. Cecil Grabiel is simply relieved to be alive, her eyes wide as she looks at the man who saved them. After the battle, the group returns to the mansion. Cecil Grabiel rushes into the arms of her father, Baron Grabiel, who is overwhelmed with emotion. Arin stands by, battered and bloodied, but satisfied that his plan succeeded. Later, while soaking in a hot bath, Arin reflects on the battle. He realizes he didn't receive any experience notifications from Dagraha's death. It seems that in this world, killing humans doesn't grant the same rewards as defeating demonic beasts. It's a sobering thought as he prepares to report to the Baron. Arin sits down with Baron Grabiel in the Grand Hall. The atmosphere is heavy as the boy explains the full extent of the conspiracy. The Baron listens intently, his face darkening with every revelation. The truth is devastating. Viscount Connor and the royal messenger colluded to kidnap Cecil Grabiel, all to raise funds for Connor to buy the position of Justice Minister. The Mithril mine was the prize they were after. "That bastard," the Baron snarls in fury. Baron Grabiel slams his hand on the table, declaring he will report everything to the palace. But Arin remains cautious, knowing that political battles aren't as simple as combat. He knows the enemy is well-connected. "It won't change anything by placing all the blame on Connor," Arin points out, interrupting the Baron's anger. He raises a hand, signaling that he has a different strategy in mind, one that could actually protect them from future attacks. Arin makes a shocking offer. "I will give up my mining privileges and hand them over to you." He's willing to sacrifice his personal reward for the sake of a stronger political standing for the Grabiel family. He explains that with those mining privileges, the Baron would have far more weight at the negotiating table to handle the case thoroughly. It's a masterstroke of political leverage from a boy who shouldn't know such things. Baron Grabiel hesitates, his integrity clashing with the pragmatism of the proposal. He doesn't want to resort to bribes or backdoor dealings, but Arin warns him that if they don't strike hard now, another villain like Connor will surely appear. Arin speaks with a maturity far beyond his years, mentioning how his father Rodden worked himself to the bone as a farmer to protect their family. He challenges the Baron. If commoners are willing to fight so hard for their kin, why are the nobles so hesitant? Cecil Grabiel looks on, surprised by Arin's intense conviction. Baron Grabiel is moved. He begins to share his own story, revealing that he had to take over the family at 16 after his parents passed away and his brother died. He has always tried to live by the principles of purity and transparency taught to him since childhood. Finally, the Baron relents. "I am sorry, Aren. I will take advantage of your mining privilege." Arn smiles, knowing that this concession is the only way to ensure their survival in the shark-infested waters of royal politics. With the immediate crisis managed, Arn brings up another topic. "Can you tell me what a nobility's obligation is?" The question hangs in the air, causing a sudden tension in the room as even the staff looks on with solemn expressions. Cecil Grabiel admits she doesn't know about it either, her curiosity piqued. Baron Grabiel lets out a heavy sigh and decides it's time for them to learn. He promises to have their teacher explain the grim reality behind that term. The Baron prepares to leave for the royal capital to settle the matter once and for all. He entrusts the mansion to Xenoph, Knight Commander, and his staff, urging them to take good care of Cecil Grabiel while he's away. A few days later, an old teacher with an eye patch arrives at the mansion. Cecil Grabiel and Arn meet him, eager to learn. Cecil insists she doesn't want to be an ignorant child anymore, and Arn repeats his request to know about the nobility's obligation. The teacher takes his seat, his expression grave as he calls for their absolute silence. "What I am about to tell you must remain a secret," he warns, unrolling a large parchment that promises to reveal truths long hidden from common knowledge. Spreading a detailed world map across the table, he points out the vast territories of the Valkys and Zhongying empires compared to their own small Radishu kingdom. It is the opening of a lesson that will fundamentally change their understanding of the world's desperate situation. Looking at the map, Arn is struck by the scale of the world. While he was born in the small Radishu kingdom, the giant empire to the north looms much larger, a silent reminder of the power dynamics at play. The teacher begins the history lesson, explaining that while the kingdom and empire are at peace now, the true history of the world has been obscured. The nobility's obligation they've heard of is actually rooted in a much darker system that has been erased from most textbooks. He points to the Forgotten Continent, a place of mystery and dread. According to him, this is the birthplace of the Demon King, the source of the shadows currently creeping across the world. Arn and Cecil Grabiel listen in shock as the teacher speaks of the Demon King of the End, a man who appeared 112 years ago with the intent to make all kings surrender to him. Arn, having reincarnated, wonders if this world really operates like the RPGs he once played. The history grows grimmer as the teacher mentions the great disaster from 62 years ago. Suddenly, all demonic beasts became inexplicably ferocious, their strength jumping whole ranks. This mysterious leveling up led to the deaths of countless people across the lands. Cecil Grabiel asks if the Demon King was behind this sudden surge in violence. The teacher admits that while it's rumored to be his last move, the true cause remains unknown, though the monster's reach has only grown since then. A massive army of B-rank demonic beasts and above soon invaded the Zhongying continent, a relentless tide of darkness that threatened to consume everything in its path. Within just 4 years, the demon army wiped out 4 kingdoms. The teacher's voice is heavy as he explains that no one knew how the Demon King could manipulate magic beasts so perfectly, or what his true goal was. Perhaps he simply wanted demonic beasts to rule the continent. Arn and Cecil Grabiel are left speechless by the scale of the horror. The invasion didn't stop there. 2 other continents were also targeted. The teacher highlights the Vukis continent, home of the dwarves, who managed to fight back using giant golems, a testament to their superior technology in the face of annihilation. Next was Roseheim, the residence of the elves. They held their ground thanks to elemental magic granted to them by the Elemental King, another front in the desperate global struggle against the Demon King's forces. Arn and Cecil Grabiel are amazed to learn that dwarves and elves are real in this world. To stop the expansion of the Demon King, an alliance of 5 continents was finally formed, uniting the different races under one banner. Despite the alliance, the situation was dire. Countries shared resources and forces, Yet countless warriors fell on the front lines. Cecil Grabiel's heart sinks when she hears that her own grandfather, the Baron's father, was one of those caught up in the carnage. In desperation, the system of having one academy per country was born. These institutions were designed to find and train all talented individuals to supply the front lines. Even with this influx of new warriors, a quarter of the Jaimin Empire still fell to the Demon King's invasion. The teacher's expression softens slightly as he mentions the world creator, Elimia. She did not abandon humanity, and finally, a new hope was born into this darkening world. However, the cost of protection had already been high. The teacher himself fought in those wars and saw most of his comrades die. That hope was Helios, the world's first person with the hero talent. He entered the battlefield at 15, just after graduating from the academy, and began taking back lost territories. Now 22 and still fighting, his legend is what inspires Cecil Grabiel. Aren, however, can't help but feel this world is becoming more like a high-stakes RPG every minute. Aren realizes that the hero and the Demon King are the two biggest 5-star influencers in this world. Because of their conflict, the Territory Exploitation Decree was issued, meaning all resources, including those from his home village, are prioritized for the battlefield. The teacher explains that their kingdom pays tribute to the front lines just to keep the war away from their own borders. The pieces fall into place for Aren. He finally understands why Baron Grabiel accepted the order to increase the tribute, even if it meant his own family had to sacrifice their luxuries. Every farm and village is essentially serving the war machine. The teacher moves on to the specific part of history Aren asked about, the nobility obligation. Aren and Cecil Grabiel lean in, sensing that this is the most critical part of their education. The teacher reveals the harsh truth. According to the Five-Continent Treaty, any noble or royal child born with talent is subject to a mandatory 3-year battle obligation. No matter how high their status, they cannot escape the call to the front lines. The stakes are even higher than they imagined. More than 50% of those who go to the front lines never return. Cecil Grabiel realizes with a shudder that if she's ordered to serve, she'll likely be sent to the most dangerous zones, just like her brother Mihai. Aren is stunned by the sheer sacrifice rate. The teacher tries to offer some small comfort, noting that those who do return enjoy high positions and good salaries. He was chosen to be their teacher because he is a retired magician who performed his own obligations. Cecil Grabiel thanks him, her resolve hardening despite the fear. Aren, however, has another question. Later, Baron Grabiel meets with Aren privately. He sincerely thanks the boy as both a leader and a father for saving Cecil from Calmel's grasp. The heir is appreciative as the Baron prepares to reward him. The Baron presents Aren with 200 silver coins for defeating Madigal Shu and another 200 for rescuing his daughter. Aren is surprised by the generous amount, but he notices a third bag sitting on the table. The Baron's tone turns somber. He admits he discussed Cecil's obligations with the king, but with her talent as a mage and the front lines lacking power, there's no way she can hide. The king himself is powerless to exempt her. The Baron has one more favor to ask of Aren. The Baron reveals he's known for a while that Aren's supposed lack of talent is just a cover. Over the past 4 years, he has come to rely on Aren completely. He hands over the third bag of 200 silver coins with a clear directive. Protect Cecil while they are at the academy, and especially when they reach the battlefield. Aren stares at the 3 heavy bags sitting on the table. 600 silver coins, a fortune for a commoner, and a significant sum even for a noble family like the Grabiels used to be. The weight of his reward is a stark contrast to his humble beginnings. He looks up at Nam Tuak Grabiel, his expression turning serious. He admits that he hid his true nature because the church's judgment was wrong. My talent is a summoner, Aren finally reveals, coming clean to the man who entrusted him with his daughter's life. Nam Tuak Grabiel is stunned, realizing why he instinctively trusted a 12-year-old child with such a dangerous task. Aren pledges to devote himself entirely to protecting Cecil Grabiel, a promise that brings a look of profound relief to the Baron's face. Arin pushes the bags of silver back across the table. Please change the bonus amount, he says. Instead of the money, he asks for a different kind of reward. Tax exemption for his own family and for the family of Karina, the family of the Holy Sword. It's a selfless request that catches the Baron off guard. Nam Tuak Grabiel readily agrees to the terms. Arin is satisfied. Now he can leave for the academy knowing his family is safe and provided for. He then requests to be relieved of his mundane service duties at the mansion so he can focus his training solely on protecting Cecil Grabiel. The Baron hands Arin a beautifully crafted short sword. It is a gift from the House of Granbiel as proof of Arin's status as their main guest. Arin is momentarily taken aback, not quite understanding the full weight of the honor he's being given. Standing proudly before his family crest, Nam Tuak Grabiel announces that the Granbiel family has been promoted to Viscount. He admits, with a touch of grim honesty, that the mining rights Arin gave up essentially allowed him to buy this elevated position. The Baron warns Arin that managing mineral mines is complex, but Arin simply offers his humble congratulations. His mind is already on the future and the new responsibilities that come with being the house's main guest. Nam Tuak Grabiel emphasizes that as the main guest, the Viscount family will always be Arin's shield and support, no matter what happens. He thanks the boy for his 4 years of service, formally welcoming him as an honored member of their circle. Arin accepts the short sword and the title with a confident smile. The bond between the commoner genius and the noble house is now forged in stone, setting the stage for his journey to the academy. Scene shifts to January in Karina village. Snow blankets the quiet houses as Arin's summoned bird, Chiapai, returns to his family's home. Mashu and Miura are excited to see the bird, but then they realize a familiar figure is standing in the doorway. Arin, they cry out in joy. The homecoming is filled with tears and laughter. His mother and his father, Rodden, can't believe how much Arin has grown in 4 years. Even Mashu and Miura have changed, though they're still small in Arin's eyes. It's a warm, long-awaited family reunion. There's a humorous moment when Miura, who was only a baby when Arin left, doesn't recognize her big brother at all. Arin is hilariously devastated as his sister hides behind Mashu. His mother gently tries to explain that this stranger is actually part of the family. They gather around the hearth for a warm pot of soup. Rodden Hunter's fresh game for the occasion, and Arin looks around the familiar room, feeling as though the house has shrunk. His father just laughs, reminding him that it's the boy who has grown, not the walls that have moved. As they eat, Mashu is eager to hear about Karina and Dagora. His mother thanks Arin for sending money home every month, but she's worried about whether he was able to live well on what was left. Arin reassures her, his heart full from the simple joy of being home. Arin explains that he's taking a break from the Baron's house to attend the academy. He delivers the news that he won't be able to send money home anymore while he's a student, but the mood remains optimistic as he enjoys the familiar warmth of his family's home. He shows them the proof of his reward for saving the young miss, the ornate short sword. But the biggest news of all is when he tells his parents that they no longer have to pay taxes to the territory. Rodden and his mother are stunned into silence by the incredible gift. Aren't done yet. He pulls out a bag containing 100 silver coins and sets it on the table. Rodden and his mother are terrified by the amount, but Arin casually explains that he earned it from hunting. That's too much. Rodden cries out, unable to fathom such wealth. Mashu is wide-eyed when Arin mentions hunting armor ants on White Dragon Mountain. He looks at his big brother with newfound awe, realizing just how dangerous Arin's life has been while he was away. Arin just smiles, happy to share his success. Rodden and his mother exchange a look of pure amazement. What a strangely superhuman child we have, Rodden mutters, while little Miura is more interested in the magical bird perched on her head. The family is in awe of the person Arin has become. The visit is short, and soon it's time to say goodbye again. Arin promises to send Chiapai whenever he needs to contact them. The snow falls softly as he prepares to leave Karina village once more, bound for the academy. Mashu declares that he'll join the academy when he turns 12 too. Arin smiles warmly, telling his brother he'll be waiting for him. But little Miura is still hesitant, holding a piece of paper as she watches her brother leave. She holds up a letter Aaron had sent, asking if he really wrote those words about her. She's been too shy to talk much during the visit, but her eyes are full of questions. Aaron's heart melts as he confirms that every word was for her. In a sudden burst of emotion, Miura throws herself into Aaron's arms, crying as she begs him to take care of himself. Aaron holds her tight, his own eyes moist as Rodden and his mother watch on, their hearts full of pride and the bittersweet ache of a final goodbye. Fast forward to March. Aaron prepares to depart for the Grand Academy, no longer as a servant, but as the house's honored main guest. It is the dawn of a new chapter, yet this change in status and his newfound freedom are about to put his relationship with Cecil Grabiel to the test. Cecil Grabiel is fuming. She confronts Aaron about his sudden decision to stop serving her house, her arms crossed in a rare show of noble authority. Aaron can only offer a small, sheepish smile, explaining that he'll still be there for her until they actually reach the academy. Aaron wonders why she's so upset, still playing the role of the oblivious bodyguard. Cecil Grabiel looks at him with genuine concern, asking if he really wants to go to the academy when he could choose to live a free, peaceful life back in his village. Her voice rises as she warns him of the dangers ahead. "Do you know how dangerous that place is?" she shouts, reminding him that unlike her, he has no noble obligation to go to the battlefield. She doesn't want to see him throw his life away. Aaron simply nods, his eyes filled with a quiet resolve that Cecil Grabiel finds unsettling. Their conversation is interrupted by a carriage arriving at the gate. "Aaron," a familiar, energetic voice calls out. It's time for some long-awaited reinforcements. Karina, an energetic girl with twin tails and a headband, and Dagora, a boy with freckles, leap from the carriage. Karina is a natural-born swordmaster, and over the past 4 years, she and Dagora have been training relentlessly to get stronger. Dagora boasts that he can even take down a giant wild boar now, while Karina just laughs beside him. Cecil Grabiel is stunned to hear about the combat skills of children from Aaron's village, while Aaron's family looks on with a mix of pride and amusement. The talk turns to the upcoming entrance exam. Karina admits she hasn't studied a thing, her face a mask of nervous sweat. Aaron, ever the strategist, reminds them that the academic portion is just as important as the combat test. Dagora looks at Aaron with a serious expression, finally realizing that his friend has been hiding a massive talent all this time. He's not angry, just impressed, though he still looks a bit grumpy about being left in the dark for so long. Karina can't help but tease Dagora about the time he lost a sparring match to Aaron on their very last day together. Dagora huffs, trying to maintain his dignity, while Cecil Grabiel watches the playful dynamic between the 3 childhood friends. Aaron officially introduces Cecil Grabiel to his friends. She immediately shifts into noble mode, offering a polite greeting that makes Aaron's inner gamer chuckle. Cecil Grabiel is now under the care of 3 very capable, if slightly eccentric, companions. Thomas Grabiel, Cecil's older brother and a sophomore at the Noble Academy, steps forward to welcome them. Karina is her usual exuberant self, practically vibrating with excitement, while Cecil Grabiel tries to keep up with the overwhelming energy of her new friends. Nam Tuak Grabiel personally thanks Karina for coming, acknowledging her as a swordmaster. Karina accepts the handshake with a wide grin, while Dagora stands by, looking a bit overwhelmed by the grandeur of the Viscount's mansion. "Just call my servant if you need anything," the Baron offers graciously. Inside, Karina and Dagora are like kids in a candy store. Karina marvels at the size of the rooms, while they both dig into a feast that is far beyond anything they've seen in their village. Aaron watches them with a quiet smile, happy to see his worlds finally colliding. Zenov, the Knight Commander, watches Karina dive onto a soft bed with a laugh. He assures the Baron that her talent is real, a sword master that only appears once every 10 years. She is truly a treasure of the kingdom, even if she acts like a wild child. As Karina and Dagora dream of dungeons and night orders, Cecil Grabiel, and Aaron share a more somber look. They haven't told the others about the life-threatening secret of the nobility's obligation yet. Aaron decides it's best to wait for the right moment. Aaron's mind is racing with the implications of the future. After graduation, Karina will likely be made a baron because of her talent, which means she'll be sent to the front lines alongside Cecil Grabiel. He hopes that by living together at the academy, they'll become a truly inseparable team. The day of departure arrives 3 days later. Arn's mother is there to see him off, her face full of motherly pride and worry. Nam Tuat Grabiel makes one last private request to Arn. Help Cecil learn to fight on her own, knowing that the battlefield won't always be fair. The Baron is moved by the sight of Arn's loyal friends. He knows Cecil Grabiel will be relying on them. Arn reflects on the meeting of a magician and a sword master in the same generation. It feels like the beginning of a legendary quest, and he's not about to let fate dictate their path. I will definitely defeat the Demon Lord together with Lady Cecil, Arn declares with a fierce fist pump. The Viscount is stunned by the boy's audacity. Hey, no. I didn't ask you for that. He sputters, but the fire in Arn's eyes is unmistakable. With final waves and shouts of goodbye everyone, the four of them prepare to set off. The air is thick with the promise of adventure as they leave the safety of the Granville mansion behind. The long journey to the Academy City has finally begun. The mansion's staff and the knights line up to see them off. Cecil's mother wipes away a tear, while Nam Tuat Grabiel just looks on with a mix of anxiety and hope. Even in the face of uncertainty, the joy of the young travelers is infectious as their carriage pulls away. The four friends are all smiles as they wave from the window of the moving carriage. From Karina Village to the Grand Academy, the scale of their world is growing. Overhead, a massive airship cruises through the clouds, a symbol of the advanced civilization they are about to enter. Meanwhile, far to the north in the Giant Empire's territory, a different kind of legend is unfolding. A young man with light hair sits atop a stone monument, overlooking a vast, fortified city. This is the heart of the Empire's power, a place where the shadow of the Demon Lord feels much closer. Sir Hero, a knight calls out, announcing the magic train's arrival. This is Hero Helios, the beacon of humanity. But there's a new, cryptic prophecy from the Elemental King, a whisper of hope that even the hero finds hard to believe in such a dark age. Hero Helios just smiles, his gaze lingering on the rows of coffins, the silent price of every victory. He decides he'll see for himself if this new hope is a miracle or just a dream. As the legend looks toward the future, the paths of the world's savior and the Hellmode gamer are destined to cross, starting with the grand wonders Aaron is about to discover on the horizon. Aaron presses his face against the glass, his eyes wide with wonder. Floating high above is a massive, ornate airship, a marvel of dwarven engineering that defies everything he once knew about this world. I can see it, he exclaims, his heart racing with excitement. As they clear the clouds, the full scale of Academy City is revealed. It's a breathtaking sight, a massive, circular metropolis spanning the horizon, designed with military precision. Aaron realizes that this isn't just a school. It's the heart of the kingdom's defense, a place where legends are forged to fight the coming darkness. Karina, Dagora, and Cecil Grabiel can only stare in awe, their journey finally reaching its first great milestone. The group steps off into a bustling station, surrounded by other travelers arriving on similar flying boats. Karina is practically vibrating with energy, her eyes darting everywhere at once. Cecil Grabiel walks with a more measured pace, though even she can't hide her surprise at the sheer number of people gathered in one place. Aaron and Cecil Grabiel discuss the incredible technology around them. Aaron explains that almost all the magic tools in the kingdom are made by dwarves, who share their technology and currency here. The city feels more advanced than even the capital. Suddenly, a collective gasp from the crowd draws their attention. Something else is coming. A train? The group shouts in unison as a massive, smoke-belching machine pulls into the station. It's another magic tool, an iron beast that runs on rails. Aaron calmly walks up to the counter and buys 4 tickets to the academy, much to the shock of Cecil Grabule, who is still trying to process how casually everyone uses such expensive-looking technology. The 4 of them are jolted as the train begins to move. Karina and Dagora are terrified and excited at the same time, clinging to their bags as the iron beast accelerates. Aaron just smiles, marveling at the high level of civilization the dwarves have brought to this world. For his friends, this is pure magic. For Aaron, it's like being back in a modern world. From the window of the train, the city looks even more impressive, with buildings reaching 5 floors high, a sight that makes even the Grand Grandule mansion seem rural by comparison. They finally arrive at the Academy station, where a sea of applicants begins to spill out onto the platform. Dagora is overwhelmed by the crowd, realizing just how big their competition really is. They walk towards the massive, ornate gates of the Academy, joining a crowd of over 20,000 applicants who have come from all corners of the kingdom. Each one is a hopeful warrior or mage, all dreaming of the same glory. Aaron and his friends look like a small drop in a vast ocean as they approach the entrance to their new life. Karina is buzzing with excitement, wondering if anyone here is super strong. Cecil Grabule is more cautious, taken aback by the sheer number of talented people her own age. But as the chapter ends, Aaron's face is a mask of pure determination. He knows what's at stake: pass the tests, level up, and prepare for the battlefield in 3 years. The Hell Mode gamer is ready for the next challenge.